This is the match. This is the big show. This is the America's Cup.
Not since 1983 has there been a 3-3 scoreline.
It's the same for both teams. We both feel that we could have more points on the scoreboard.
This edition of the match is turning into a classic. Right now, it's anyone's cup.
The results do the talking, and you have to look at the scoreline, and so far the scoreline has both teams pretty even.
We still don't know who the quicker boat is here yet, right?
What we've got is a really close yacht race, and it's definitely shaping up to be a pretty interesting series.
It's the first to 7. Pick this one at your peril.
It's pretty obvious that the boats are very similar in performance.
We are locked at 3 race wins apiece in this 36th America's Cup match.
Obviously, everything comes down to some pretty small margins. These boats are going very fast.
The Italians are not going away. This is not a runaway train for the Kiwis right now.
From an event point of view, it's fantastic to see. All squared up, all to play for.
Kia ora koutou katoa and welcome to Aotearoa, New Zealand, where we prepare for day 5 of the America's Cup match on the waters of the Hauraki Gulf. Yesterday, no wins meant no racing, and the stalemate continued in a match tied at 3-all. Today, the forecast is far more user-friendly for these magnificent 75-foot 40 mana hulls, which means both Rossa Prada Pirelli and Emirates Team New Zealand will once again battle for sailing's holy grail, the 36th America's Cup. And despite no racing, both teams claimed it was still a learning day. And both know 4 more wins delivers the cup to their home yacht club. 7 wins secures the silverware. Race 7 will see Rossa with port entry, Team New Zealand with starboard. Those entry points are reversed for race 8 in the chase for glory. The commentary team are in place. Chase Boat 1, double Olympic gold medalist Shirley Robertson. Heli 1, Ineos Team UK grinder Freddie Carr. Beside me, former Artemis skipper Nathan Outteridge and our commentary commodore, North Sailors president Kenny Reid. And Kenny, we know that the Italian stars are lapping this up, but I think their friends and family are too.
Well, out on the viaduct yesterday evening, even after a no-race day, the Italian contingent here in Auckland was very much making itself known. With COVID restrictions, there are a fraction of Italians who have traveled here for the Cup, so it's up to the family, friends, and teammates to bring the noise and make sure that 5 million Kiwis know that there's a formidable and loud adversary amongst them. Nathan Outteridge, today's moving day, tensions are high, and any boost from the peanut gallery is always appreciated.
Oh, Kenny, it feels like as each day that goes by, pressure is growing on this team. It's Monday here in Auckland, and to me, it feels like it's the weekend still. With no racing yesterday, it seems like everyone in Auckland has decided to call in sick so they can come and watch another day of America's Cups racing. It's a known fact that New Zealand is a country full of sailing experts, and they're not afraid to call out their sailing stars if they make mistakes. Kenny, talk about pressure.
Well, the pressure's always on the person behind the wheel when it comes to wins and losses. We're talking about the Mount Rushmore of America's Cup drivers, and we have to go all the way back to the turn of the century and Charlie Barr, who was 9-0. Harold Vanderbilt was 12-2. Dennis Conner was 13-5. In the modern era, there was the dominant Russell Coutts at 14-0. And now with a historic tie-in wins, a Mr. James Spithill, also with 14 wins. But the intriguing part of Jimmy's legacy is the fact that he's actually lost more than he's won. And this overall record actually stands at 14-16. Oh, and that Burling guy, he's already at 11 wins to go with only 4 losses. But there is a bit of an asterisk. The helmsmen in the Cups of eras gone by were historically dominant. Barr and Vanderbilt racked up their totals in the best-of-3 race series. for Connors and Coots. The series was either best of 7 or 9, but today's day and age, we're currently at a best of 13 and produce, with the right team, a bit easier path to rack up big wins and losses.
This is the Italian challenge.
Rossa, Prada, Pirelli are going to have to show their transom to a Kiwi contingent that many think may be possibly stronger in today's conditions. Passing lanes are still few and far between, as we all know. The final dash to the start line critical. Does that mean that Francesco Bruni and Jimmy Spithill start to stir things up a bit more in the pre-start? If that's the case, on the start line approach, look for Jimmy to start throwing some looks at Peter Burling that he may not have seen in previous starts.
Everyone is excited. I mean, it's been fantastic racing till now. I think we're not nervous. I mean, we're still, it's still a draw, so we have to see it as like a first race. So we're gonna go there and push from the start, from the beginning. And I think everybody excited and they want to go racing, because yesterday was quite frustrating.
Here's the Kiwi crew for race 7.
Emirates Team New Zealand have been keeping the fans on the edge of their seat, and it almost feels like they're holding on by the skin of their teeth. A pattern has emerged where they lose the first race of the day and then recover to level the scores. As they cross the finishing line of race 6, I heard senior team member Glenn Ashby say the regatta starts tomorrow, and it couldn't be more true. We are getting to the business end of this America's Cup. Time for learning is over. It's time for this team to step up a gear and do what the nation expects of them. It's moving day.
I think every day is important. You know, every race is incredibly important. Obviously, it's a very tight event. You know, we feel like we're learning a lot all the time, and you know, it's really about just going out and executing what we know how to do now. Yeah, I think we'll expect to see them keep improving, keep doing what they've been doing well, but yeah, I'm sure they'll be trying new things and different tactics also. So, you know, it's really about who goes out there and puts their best foot forward today, which we're really excited about going and trying to do.
Today's racing is again on the back paddock, or course E. A decent northeasterly is forecast for the afternoon, maybe the best breeze expected over the next couple days. Course E, mixed with the breeze direction, may lead to more wind shifts and maybe even a pass or two. We can only hope, but the 2-minute start sequence gives way to a 3-lap windward leeward course with 1.9-mile legs, finishing downwind. Current on the course will just be starting to come in, quite light, running left to right across the course as the boats sail upwind. No real course side advantage. But as we look out to the beautiful sights on the Sound, let's go up for the full view of the course. What the obstacles are, what the obstacles present. Up to Heli 1 and Ineos grinder Freddie Carr. Welcome back, Freddie. What's the breeze look like up there?
Yeah, afternoon, Kenny. Very, very different look to course A down here on course E. It's kind of building up to 12 knots and receding. Now, when it recedes, as we've just seen now, the bottom right-hand corner of this beat looks a little bit exposed. You don't want to be getting bounced out off the start line early into that bottom right-hand corner. But the exciting thing I've seen from their pre-start warm-ups is the breeze is shifting around all over the place because of the islands we've got upwind of us here on course E.
Let's go on to chase boat 1, Shirley Robertson. Shirley, you know, they had the reset yesterday because of no racing, but you get the feeling the tension just keeps ramping up.
Oh, Stephen, today feels big. Yesterday's no action for the fans has only added to the suspense and intensity. And for the teams, you're right, a time to reset, refocus. It gave them time to think. They are, as we speak, going through their last-minute pre-race routines, knowing that if they drop the ball today, they could be only a day away from the dream being over. The Italian outfit have stopped referring to themselves as the underdog. The Italians have belief. The Kiwis, steely focus. For sailing fans around the planet, today, Stephen, is unmissable.
Race 7 of the match. Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, Emirates Team New Zealand. Rossa have port entry, Emirates Team New Zealand have starboard entry. And you've got to think, who can make a statement today?
Nobody has yet. 3-3. The score line tells the story. That's all we need to know. I've asked 50 people this morning, starting early down here on the viaduct, pretty much randomly walking up to strangers, asking anybody who would want to talk, who's going to win today? Well, if you had a Kiwi accent, it was pretty predictable. But anybody without a Kiwi accent, everybody said 1-1, Nathan. Nobody's going to stick it out there at this stage.
Well, why would you? They've gone 1-1 so far every race, and weather looks pretty similar. I know Freddie's saying there's a few more shifts up there, and let's hope that we can see some passing in these races. But I think once again, it's going to come down to these starts. Who starts best is going to dictate racing today.
Most importantly, you are seeing boats sailing. We've got a race day today.
This is the race committee. The wind sampling is complete, and this race will start on schedule.
We are a go for race 7 in the match of the 2021 America's Cup on course E, the back paddock. And Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli will have port entry. Remember, it's a coincidence to when you can win, according to Francesco Bruni, coming in on port.
Last 2 race winners came in from the starboard side, so I think we've kind of shook that one, at least for the time being, until the port entry maybe wins another 5 in a row or something. But yeah, I think that one's been put to bed, at least for now. I think with this breeze, Nathan, we're going to see a little more feisty attitude from all these guys in the pre-start. Time to start jockeying around a little bit more, maybe not be so predictable.
Well, that's a good thing. With a little bit more breeze, it means it's easier to stay on the foil, so the boats become a little bit more alive, a little bit more dynamic. You can spin the boat faster, you can really accelerate at your competition. What we saw 2 days ago was very light wind, and the boats were just fighting to stay on the foils and stay alive. With a bit more breeze, the boats are happier on the foils, you can go into more of an attack mode.
Well, there's one person that likes to attack, and that's the Pitbull, Jimmy Spittle, along with Francesco Bruni. They pretty much have got their starts right, apart from race 6. You could be picky and choosy, but they do like the way they start. There haven't been too many technical issues. There's probably been caught in some flat wind, and away we go. They have the entry at 2 minutes and 10 seconds into this 7th race. And then the starboard boat, which will be Emirates Team New Zealand, the defender, allowed in on the 2-minute mark. Port entry now. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Emirates Team New Zealand can come in at the 2-minute mark. And then fun begins.
Looks like quite a bit bigger jib on the Luna Rossa boat, Nathan, than the Kiwi boat right now. Really one of the only real noticeable differences.
Yeah, that's a really good pickup. That's an indication on maybe one team thinks the wind's going to build a little bit, but again, I still think, look at this start. You know, Team New Zealand here are really trying to put a bit of pressure on them, trying to block the jibe here, or at least thinking about jibing inside here. Let's follow this, see how they go. There you go.
Jumping them and getting back early. Let's listen on board.
Port out on the breeze. 2, 1, board. Yep, 2 boarding. He's still 2 boarding here. And he comes slower. No, slow. He's pushing. Happy to push there. 24 on pin. He's just behind you there. Wait, taking off. Yeah. Still a bit. Go here, Pete. Your call.
You can come up if you want. You can come up if you want.
He's up now. One boarding.
From up here.
We'll be
looking like they're above ley line and looking like they're quite early.
Quite early, and actually being slow there for a second actually was a benefit to the Italians. They got a nice little gap. Hurling's going to have to bear away at some stage.
Can see a big gap between the boats when the start comes. Wide right for Italy here.
Here comes the slingshot move for Spithill.
Both boats over the line right now, having to do a big barrel way to get going. It's all about the slingshot here.
Up now. Smoothly up. What up? Happy?
Here's the slow.
between us. Half a bit there for Gage.
Race 7 of the America's Cup match. We're at 3-all. Can anyone make a big move today?
They got tight there, Nathan, right at the end. Burling actually slowed the boat down a bit and got it tight. Is it tight enough to be able to fend off their position as they head towards this for the first time?
Well, it got tight and a little luff starting to come in, but Luna Rossa were over 5 knots faster with their gun, and look at this, they're starting to roll over. Peter Burling goes for the luff, Jimmy Spittle responds, and now all of a sudden, Jimmy's pressing. You can hear Francesco Gunn saying, press, press, press. Clear win for Luna Rossa in that start.
Just build on the single.
Yeah.
20 seconds.
We go ahead, sorry. We go ahead.
Transitioning to... He goes.
Really similar starting setup to race 1, Nathan, except it was a flip-flop. It was the other boat. It was the Kiwis starting the race so much quicker than the Italians. This is exact flip-flop, but really similar pattern to race 1.
Okay.
Big pressure now Emirates Team New Zealand in a tough spot there on the hip of Luna Rossa. We know Luna Rossa have this high mode. They can sail high and slow into the wind. Emirates Team New Zealand, they're going to try and hold as long as they can. But the while this is happening, the meters are just growing. You can see Luna Rossa just slowly itching ahead. Shirley, we're going to come down to you for that start. Any thoughts on how that played out? You know, it's a big gain all of a sudden for Jimmy Spittle and Luna Rossa.
Yeah, well played by Jimmy. I mean, they came back with so much time, more than 2 and 1 on the clock, and really did well to hit that line on time. A good half a knot or 1 knot quicker than the Kiwis. I mean, really well done, and tiny, tiny differences. And what we're seeing now is how that tiny difference just grows and grows and grows. And like Freddie said, I like this left-hand side. It looks good and solid. The breeze is increasing actually as they get up the course all the time.
Freddie, we see that Luna Rossa is shutting down this race course right from the start. Exactly the pattern that they've shown the entire regatta here so far. They might have actually let the Kiwis right off the hook on that one. What do you see from up above?
Yeah, much like the last time I was up in Heli 1, is much better pressure out on the left-hand side. The interesting thing is here is that the Kiwis are keen to engage Luna Rossa in attacking duel, and we know that's a big strength of the Italians, and they've thrown in more tacks in the bottom half of this beat than we've seen previously. I'll be interested to see what the next move is from Emirates Team New Zealand. Have they just got their air clear forwards? This game is changing very quickly from the heli.
Look at the speed distances they go across here. This leads inside 70 metres. They've been consistently a couple of knots quicker, and Luna Rossa didn't tack directly in front of them. They actually gave him some breathing space to leeward.
They didn't mean to. I think it just all happened so fast. Let's see if they hit him right away.
Yes, yes.
And then a match race broke out. You know, just tight. If you're the Italians right now, at least if I were on the Italian boat, I'm thinking that boat behind me is really fast. I'm just going to sit here and block and block and block. And they're going to have to really work to get through me.
I think when we see the meters get inside 50, that's when the danger zone starts to begin for Luna Rossa. Outside of that, they're still comfortable, but at some point up this beat, they've got to tack on their face, and they've got to give them disturbed air. Otherwise, New Zealand are going to keep closing this lead.
2, 1,
boat down.
Fire.
Nothing.
Build angle,
maybe high build here.
Yeah, I'm already. Yeah, I'm already doing it.
So I think it's going to have to be an early jibe, or?
Yeah, it's 50-50. I think he will take better way.
Yeah.
But I think we need to go straight.
The pressure here on
I think we need to go straight because otherwise he will do it.
Okay, I think we have some time
Heading
before the
towards the top
drive,
gate
but
for the
not too
first
much.
time in race 7 of the 2021 America's Cup match. And it's tied, but Luna Rossa are leading the way. But it's not a huge margin. Look who is right on their hammer. That's Emirates Team New Zealand. As Kenny Reid said, this is a match race.
3, 2, 1 way go. 5, 3, 2, 1.
Small margin as they head downwind.
very interesting discussion as they approach that mark about which mark to take. Francesco Bruni, Jimmy Squiddle talking about which mark to take. They thought Emirates Team New Zealand were going to attack and go to the other mark. Clearly, Freddie, on the left-hand side of the course, the breeze is stronger, and Emirates Team New Zealand followed them round, but they've jibed and got to that side quicker.
Yeah, and Nathan, I'm amazed by that as well. The left-hand side, particularly at the top, is strong. And Emirates Team New Zealand, my takeaways from that first upwind, they're on a slightly smaller jib, and their jib snaps and their re-accelerations were better than Prada's on that first upwind, and it negated the tack advantage that we've seen previously in this America's Cup. This is a very interesting moment of the race. I'm seeing the Kiwis in better pressure right now.
Well, Stephen, I mean, there's definitely more breeze at the top of the course, and I agree with Freddie. I was just watching the speeds coming off the boat. When the Kiwis got rumbling, they were, 1.5 to 2 knots faster. There's a lot of breeze in the middle of the course. I mean, I think the Italians are kind of all right, but absolutely quite a lot of risk letting the Kiwis get to the favourite side.
Of all downwind legs so far, Nathan, I would give this one to the Italians so far, whether it's breeze strength or maybe some tweaks to the boat, but they've actually gone quite well because, let's face it, the Kiwis have been really fast in all the in the races in the past.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Kenny. Initially they were gaining it out of those jibes, but then all of a sudden, midway through the run, maybe they sailed out of that pressure as they got to the boundary, and then it was Luna Rossa's turn. Racing's often a bit about your turn, my turn. Let's see if Luna Rossa jibe in front, if they continue on here. But without doubt, Luna Rossa are holding their own on this downwind.
They're letting them go, I think, right now, because they'll probably try to work the geometry of the race course and go for one and in. They possibly could just do one more maneuver and get into that bottom gate. Let's see if that pans out.
Yeah, exactly. Should be gaining for pressure here.
I guess the thing that's in my mind is the bottom right-hand side. Freddie Carr was saying was softer on the bottom right, which would lead you to want to do a right-hand turn, go out to that left-hand side of the course. Freddie's it still looking soft in that bottom right corner, or is Luna Rossa going to potentially go the wrong way here?
Yeah, that's definitely still a feature on the race course, Nate. Bottom right, where the Kiwis are heading right now, is looking a little bit softer. You want to be getting out to the left-hand side of this race course. And to be honest, since the start of the race, the left-hand side looks better than it did earlier on. So it's all about the left-hand side here.
Forward. That's the case. If Freddie's right, then we're going to probably see Prada turn into attack pretty quickly and do this maneuver that they call it JK, which is essentially round the mark and just roll right into attack. Kiwis didn't get further behind in that exchange, but there will be a split. Let's see if Luna Rossa counters with a quick tack around this mark.
Okay, my trap.
2, 1.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli heading into the gate to the bottom for the first time. And it was a good downward leg for the Italian challengers. They head on the start of leg number 3 of 6. Not too far behind. In come Emirates Team New Zealand.
Very controlling, very aggressive move by the Italians right there. I didn't see that coming. Forces the Kiwis, even though the Italians lost a little bit of distance there, it forced the Kiwis into a move right away. So they had to get out of the disturbed air of the Italians.
3, 2, 1.
So now Luna Rossa are where they want to be. They want to be on this left-hand side. We've been talking about looks windy on the left-hand side, so they couldn't go with Emirates Team New Zealand. That round up into attack is such a powerful maneuver, so they've had to give them a little space, a little leverage. Any right-hand shift right now, Emirates Team New Zealand are back in this race. If they get a nice tack, could be a port starboard situation coming up, and it looks like we've had a lead change, but a lead change isn't confirmed until they make the cross.
More pressure on our left.
Yeah, when it attacks, I think we need to protect the left if we can.
Yeah, little lighter here, Gecko, little lighter.
Constantly 2 or 3 knots faster on the New Zealand boat. Every time I look at those speeds, Nathan, they're 2 or 3 knots faster. And it doesn't look like they're an awful lot slower. We may have seen our first pass here, or very close to it. Kiwis on starboard, Stephen. They have the rights.
Gonna have to attack the leeward. Stand by.
Hold your breath for just one moment. Match 7. Key moment or not. Hold your breath.
Let the face on.
Okay, my rudder.
Slowly winding up past there.
Crossing.
On faster us, please. Happy to gauge up a little. Take some gauge now, just for the safety. Already high. We've got to check out or
It's a big moment in this race. If Team New Zealand can hold to the boundary here, they're going to convert this into a pass, and will be our first pass of the America's Cup.
I think it's an easy pass right now.
Get the speed. We start trimming up on high mode here.
They're faster. They're faster.
3. Going to attack behind. 4 down. Here we go. May get a hook here.
Fast mode, yeah.
Yeah, fast mode. Normal mode. Won't get a hook.
Yeah.
Yep, Tiffany's good.
And there you have it, folks. A lead change.
Don't blink. It happened.
And everybody says you can't pass in the America's Cup in the 75-footers.
You bet that crowd's happy.
The bottom line, Nathan, is we saw it on the first beat, and we've seen it again. The Kiwi boat is ripping upwind. It is going really fast. We have not seen these speed advantages to either boat yet. This is big.
Yours cover. More pressure to build here, boys.
3, 2, 1.
One ahead. Okay. 2, 1.
Good job, boys.
Danny. Forward. Really nice. 70 again. Quick push. Big crash.
Straight here, boys. Go straight.
Keep pressing if you can. Transition deals below. Get down to angle. Transition.
Nathan, we've talked a lot about the fact that when the Kiwis get behind early, they kind of stay there. They don't really fall back very far. Typically the sign of a fast boat. Let's see if the Italians can do the same here. They fell behind quickly to this 100 meters, but they appear to be kind of hanging in there right now. Freddie, let's take a look. What do you see from like a sail twist and anything that you can see from boat to boat that's really, it really shows a big difference right now?
Hey, Kenny, you nailed it at the top of the show. What's the difference between the last time we saw them in 10 knots and today? And it's the size of the sail. The Kiwis are on their J2, the Italians are on their J1, and once the Kiwis are up and ripping, they're just dragging less sailcloth through the air, and that's why they're going faster on this upwind.
Hey, Fred, it also looks like Team New Zealand attacking more efficiently today. Do you think that smaller jib, less flap when it tacks, is less drag, and that could be helping the tacking performance?
Exactly that, Nate. The power unit on board the boats, the grinders who are in the jibs and on the winches. The Kiwis have got less sail to snap in, so effectively you get to your new flying shape quicker, and that's why they've negated the tacking advantage that we've seen from Luna Rossa in the first 6 races.
You guys, the Kiwis are smoking right now. 4 knots VMG. That is a big number.
Sorry, man. Stay on board. Let me happy lift. Nice place there. Good pressure at the mark as well. They're on heel, please. Sorry.
Closing in on the halfway stage of race 7. And for the first time in this race, Emirates Team New Zealand lead Luna Rossa around the top mark.
3, 2, 1. Away you go.
They trailed by 10 seconds at the end of leg 2. They've converted that into a larger lead at the top gate on the upwind leg.
Yeah. 2, 1, all clear.
19 seconds. And the drag race now continues.
Let's go on board with the Italians. Let's see if there's panic in their voice or control right now. That was a depressing leg if you're an Italian fan, unfortunately.
Yeah, we just hold here for now.
Yes, yes. Performance.
Got to to go have a look, Killer? See if there's anything to look.
You're down there on the water.
Roger,
You
over
just
there.
witnessed what happened on that upwind. What's the atmosphere like, and how does it feel out there?
Nice little lefty
Big
here.
moment.
Max left here and pressure above us.
It feels like a massive moment. I mean, the Kiwis have
And also
shown
the
us
bottom seems,
glimpses
solid in front.
of a turbo, and I think they just demonstrated that. They seem to have modes. They can go low and fast, and not just a little bit faster, a lot faster. But when they need to hold high, they've got that as well. I mean, really impressive. They also look like the whole rig looks more upright, and I know that's controlled in the rules, but even the way they're sailing upwind, you know, bow down, rig forward, it looks really powerful and neat. Very impressive.
On board the Kiwi boat with the Brain Trust.
Happy to not go too far this way though, Pete. Keen on lay line if we can, but how far's lay? 20 seconds? Yeah. We still got breeze this way, man. Happy with that. Happy on lay.
Shirley Robertson on chase by 1/4 the afterburners, didn't she? Well, she called the turbo. It feels like the afterburners have come on. For the first real time in a tight race, you're seeing Emirates Team New Zealand live up to this billing of being a quick boat.
There were all those pre-race rumors, all the whispering of 3 and 4 knot speed differences at time. You know what? We've seen 3 or 4 knot speed differences this race, which is incredible to me, actually.
What stands out, just looking at it from a layman's perspective, how quickly they have opened the course up.
Well, we'll round this gate, and let's talk a little more about the sail size with Freddie.
Get her all the way up. Yeah, I think we wait till he's around and then take.
Just take a look at the heart rates of those grinders like Steven Bergs and look at Simon van Veldhoven, Olympic cyclist, the Rhino, sitting at 174.
He's driving on our line now. Okay, change this thing now, Pete.
Emirates Team New Zealand heading straight for the, you might say, the centre of the bullseye of the bottom gate to complete leg number 4 of this 7th race in the match 2021 out on course E on the Hauraki Gulf. Swing it around like a go-kart, you might say. They head up on that upwind leg, and suddenly the New Zealand flags fly high on the America's Cup village.
Does anybody work around here?
It's a Monday. It's the America's Cup. Work schmirk.
Boundary, thanks. Yeah. Pretty skewed course in this thing now, obviously.
Coming up.
Leg 4 has proven to be a monster leg for Emirates Team New Zealand. Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli go around, 29 seconds adrift. That was I'm still stunned. We've seen the first lead change in the race.
Yeah, Freddie, it looks like a big left-hand shift, too. A lot of port tack to this beat. That actually plays into the Kiwis' hands as well, doesn't it?
Sailing out loud. Head him on the way back.
Exactly that, Ken. Left-hand shift is rotated through about 15 degrees to the left, so it makes it harder for Luna Rossa to try and find an overtaking lane. As I said, Kenny, you nailed it at the top of the show. It's all about the J2 versus the J1 here. The jibs have very small operating windows. Anything under 10 knots, you want to be on the J1. That's what Prada are on. Anything between 10 and 12 knots, you want to be on the J2. That's what Emirates Team New Zealand have been on that second upwind. The breeze was between 10 and 12, and they cashed in that really good jib call.
For everybody back at home, it may seem strange. Sorry, Shirley, just one second, just on that jib call for a second. Every other boat that we sail in the world, we try to pile on as much sail area as possible and hike the boat flat, and that's a good thing. These boats are completely different. They need enough sail area essentially to get them out of the water, and then the smaller the sails, the better, because the efficiency, the drag of a bigger sail totally outweighs the size difference. You want to get small as quickly as you can in these foiling boats. You got apparent wind speeds of 50, 60 knots.
DMG seems a little bit for him, but
Shirley, what do you see?
Kenny, I I was just going to add, I don't think it was an easy decision pre-start because it was a race course of two very different wind speeds, 12 knots at the top. We saw even down to 8, 9 knots at the bottom. So it was a difficult call to make. Do you go powerful for the, for the all-important start, or do you think about later on in the race? To me, we're just motoring up here with both boats. The whole sail plan of the Kiwi boat just looks further forward, like they've less rake. But I know in the rules, I've said it before, I know in the rules that's constrained, but somehow the way they're sailing, it just looks, the whole plan looks different to the Italian boat.
So the lead now sitting at 400, closing 500 metres. Question now, Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli. What have they got? What can they do?
3 or 4 knots, you got nothing. If your opponent's going 3 or 4 knots faster, which they consistently are, Nathan, still, nothing's changed here since that pass.
Yeah, I've been watching that VMG number quite a lot, and to me it seems like the wind's just clicked up a tiny bit. This J2 has unlocked this speed that people have been talking about for a long time. And up until today's race, we've never seen him go down to this coda jib. I know we keep hammering on about this point, but this is the boat speed that people have been talking about from Team New Zealand for a long time, and now it's just over that threshold. The speed is there, and they've got the angle back there on the breeze, and they're going same angle, but 3 knots faster.
There was chatter, though, pre-race today that these were perfect conditions for Luna Rossa. This would suit Luna Rossa. 11, 12 knots, perfect for them. Why? Why are we seeing what we're seeing?
Well, it could be as simple, Freddie called it up top, and Shirley just confirmed it could be as simple as a jib call. Sail choice matters.
Same again. Keep pushing. Happy down a couple if you want. Nice. Just sing out whether you want a fairway drive or copy. If we go to boundary here, we'll probably lay. 7 away. Probably better. Happy to bear away.
Emirates Team New Zealand are rounding the top gate for the last time in this 7th race of the America's Cup with a sizable lead on Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli. That brings the smiles out all over the Wynyard Court of the America's Cup Village and around the rest of the country, but still has a long way to go.
This skewed race course, Nathan, it really eliminates passing lanes, doesn't it? Look at, they're almost fetching all the way down the course. This breeze has gone dramatically to the left. They're just about laying it. Looks like on the Kiwi boat, that means that literally there is no passing lane at this stage.
Stand by, boys. Your wheel.
Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli now need to fight. They'll be thinking about why and what went wrong in this race. They strong start by anyone's stretch of the imagination, and they nailed it. And look now, they're trailing by 48 seconds.
Well, Stephen, we've been talking about mistakes made, and that's what's going to lose these races. And Team New Zealand made the first mistake in this race. They didn't execute that start well. They came off the line a little bit slower. And Luna Rossa had the advantage. But if you look at the next mistake in the race, there was that bottom mark rounding. Team New Zealand rolled straight into attack. Luna Rossa didn't go with them. They didn't defend. They left a little bit of leverage open. That allowed Team New Zealand to put the hammer down and use their boat speed. I don't know if the breeze shifted right or not, but they definitely just used the speed, sailed around the front of them. And that's where the lead change occurred. So 2 mistakes in this race is a difference between 1 in every other race so far.
Let's head down to Chase Boat 1, Shirley Robertson. This will be the first time that Emirates Team New Zealand have gone back-to-back in the match. How big a deal psychologically for this team now?
This is a massive deal, Stephen. I mean, not just for the team, but for the shore team as well, and for the fans at home. I think they've known that they had the potential to have, really, really good speed, but have been frustrated, been unable to show it. But today, it's like they're in a different boat. They've had the freedom to really put the pedal down, and goodness, that's massive speed difference. Pretty much unstoppable in these kind of winds. So impressive.
Look at the VMGs here right now. It's 5-knot VMG difference between the 2 boats, and that lead is slowly just ticking away and growing.
Quickly, Shirley just said it's huge psychological bonus for Emirates Team New Zealand. A win like this, the last race that Emirates Team New Zealand won was 1 minute and 41 seconds. They're going to win healthily this time. Let's be blunt. Is this a bit of a body blow for Luna Rossa?
Well, it must be. I used to sail with my old friend Peter Eisler, and he used to say, sail like your boat's faster. It changes your mentality. It changes how you set up on the starting line, changes how you try to control the race course, and it's a big bonus if you really think your boat's faster.
Emirates Team New Zealand, in a match that featured the first pass of the match, win race number 7, and they take a lead. They go up 4-3 when it matters.
Yep. Sorry, I might have done the sequence.
Pretty impressive, Nathan. You gotta be a little nervous right now, at least in this wind strength. If you're an Italian fan, you're just hoping like crazy that it was the bad jib call that got you in this situation. You know, in races 1 and 2, it was almost the same wind strength, and we didn't see this big a difference.
Absolutely. You know, I think Luna Rossa right now are hoping that when they put the smaller jib on for the next race, which they will, that the speed comes back and these boats are more even, and it comes back down to the starting execution once again, because that was impressive by Team New Zealand to sail around a boat like that. Wow.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli will complete race number 7. And they will now trail by 1 race. It's 4-3 in favour of Emirates Team New Zealand, but we know one thing about this Italian crew. As Francesco Brini has said, we will keep fighting hard. We got a shot at winning this. Confirmation of race 7 of the match in 2021. Emirates Team New Zealand with a 58-second victory over Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli.
Well, this race wasn't, this is the first time we've ever said that, it wasn't over in the start. We saw actually a brilliant start by Jimmy Spithill. He played his cards very well. He kept a distance to weather and actually was going considerably faster. Look at that, 6-7 knots faster when the boats actually hit the line. Exact flip-flop opposite of race number 1 when Peter Burling did exactly that to him. Peter Burling actually tried to do a little luff there, figured it out early on. It wasn't going to happen. Spithill set up the race course the way they wanted to. Bruni rounds the mark, starts ripping downwind. Hey, you know what? At this stage during the race, with it a third of the way over, pretty good. Looks really good. But this is where it all started to unravel. This jibe around the mark, this showed me they were nervous. Something was up. This is a really radical move that they did right there because they were going to give up distance. Now, the next couple tacks were the key tacks. They missed them. They didn't tack on top of Team New Zealand. They gave Team New Zealand a little bit of breathing space. A beautiful JK maneuver at this bottom mark, Nathan. And this just set up breathing space for New Zealand up this first half of the leg, and they just poke their nose ahead and have speed and rip it.
And here's the critical moment. As this played up, they look like they're sailing around the edge of a gust. The boat speed differences here are significant. On paper here, Emirates Team New Zealand are taking the lead. They've shifted ahead on the ladder rung, but it doesn't count until you get them on starboard tack. They got them on starboard tack and they took the lead here. And from here onwards, it was very obvious what was going to happen. This boat has got wheels. This boat today, with the smaller jib on, which we've talked a lot about, is going very fast, and they just sailed away and took a huge lead. What a confidence boost for these guys.
So just a reminder where we sit. Remember, it is the 1st to 7 will win the America's Cup. One will win it or one will retain it. Right now, Emirates Team New Zealand are a little bit closer to retaining it, but there's a long way to go. Remember, 7 wins it. Let's go on board. Emirates Team New Zealand talk to Peter Burling, a 58-second win. Peter, that's the first time Emirates have gone back-to-back. You win race 6, you win race 7. How big a deal now this psychologically for your team?
Oh, you know, it's every race is big, and especially getting to this later part of the regatta. Obviously, really pleased with the way we're learning. Almost got them off the start. I'm not sure how much was between the boats there, but you know, then they got that little jump, and we just managed to keep digging deep and give ourselves an opportunity up that second beat, which was great to actually get a pass finally. But yeah, then also to extend the way we did after we passed was pretty pleasing as well.
Pete, how much of that boat speed difference? I mean, that was the biggest boat speed difference we've seen between the boats this entire series. How much do you think was the jib call, if you noticed the other boat had quite a bit bigger jib? And how much do you think it's just your boat finally showing its stuff?
I think it's a bit of both. You know, I think the whole event we've been pretty happy with the boat speed, but just struggling a little bit out of the tacks. You know, we've made quite a few little modifications just to keep improving, and you know, everyone's obviously been working super hard. You know, it's obviously a shame not to get racing yesterday, but you know, great to get the first one on the board today. And you know, now we're just taking one race at a time and trying to back it up, and this next one's the key.
Hey Pete, nice job with the win there, mate. Can you give us a thought on what you thought was the critical moment of that race that took the lead for you?
Yeah, well, I think we got the last right shift of the breeze. You know, we got that favoured right turn at the bottom, and then the early tack. You know, we're on a massive left phase at that stage, and then got about a 10-degree right-hander, which got us a whole heap closer than they could have been. And you know, from their leeward tack, we managed to hold in there. So it was kind of, I suppose, a really pleasing thing for us is that we're just a lot of the things we practiced and been talking about, actually seeing them in action.
Nice work, Pete. Practice makes perfect. You've got one more race today. Go get them.
Thanks, guys.
So let's just take a look at the numbers, shall we? Let's look at the stats. I think speed will come into play here, Kenny.
Upwind speed, dominant. Downwind speed, dominant. And, you know, as usual, sailed a little more distance, but this is kind of a pattern that we've seen many times before. Not a whole lot more distance this time, Nathan, but certainly look at those speeds.
Yeah,
Goodness
2 knots faster, upwind and downwind in a straight line. That's speed.
Let's take a look at the worm and take a close look at the leg 3 overtake. Nathan?
All right, so we're going to look at the bottom mark rounding here, and I think that was the key moment. When they came around that bottom mark, you can see New Zealand, look at them coming in at almost 45 knots of boat spin in the bottom mark on the red line. Rossa much slower with the jibe round up there. That was all gains, and then as you see, when they do the tack, the speed drops massively on Italy, whereas New Zealand just have this big flat line. That's where Peter said they made the gain. The right-hand shift comes, and you can see the VMG here. It's early on in the second upwind where they make the gain. That red line is way above the yellow line, that whole beat, if you look at the averages, and that shows you they're a quicker boat.
A couple of key moments, right? We talk about the pre-start, we'll talk about the pass as well, because normally we've been going pre-start, you win the race, but it's different today.
We always talk about the gap between the boat to windward, or on the right-hand side of your screen, the Italian boat, they're trying to increase the gap. But Spithill notices that the other boat is slow. They're going to have to be slower. They're going to be early to the leeward end. They're going to have to stay slow. So he decides to put the pedal down. And this is very impressive. This is a great start. Great pickup by Jimmy Spithill. You heard them talking about it on board. Just send it, because the other boat is going to be early. They can't really press the gas pedal on Emirates Team New Zealand here, or they would have been early. So a 6-7 knot speed difference for the two boats, and the Italians sailed smack into a powerful position, and sure enough, led around the first lap because of that move. Really well done by the Italians. But this is the big move. All of a sudden, Nathan, they got let off the hook twice early on by the Italians, who didn't tack on them and gave them breathing space, and man, did they take advantage of it.
They did. Peter Berling said they got that little right-hand shift, which got them into a stronger position here, and now it's just tacking efficiency. The boat in front tacking really nicely at Emirates Team New Zealand. Peter said they were working on their tacking skills, and you know, we talked about the smaller jib, less drag in the tacks, but it looked like what we thought, being Rossa being the more efficient tacking boat, might have flipped in this race, and with the stronger breeze, Emirates Team New Zealand tacking very well.
attacking well and winning race number 7. And we've been trying to get in touch with Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Not going to get it for one reason. They're trying to figure out, after winning a pre-start, how did they not win the race, which has been the theme so far in this America's Cup match. So what we'll do is go upstairs in Heli 1 to Freddie Carr. What can Luna Rossa do now? What do you think they're talking about?
They're hitting the reset button, aren't they, really? I mean, that was a tough race for them. They'll take a lot of confidence from the start. I thought that's actually the first time someone's won a start rather than someone making a mistake and gifting the start. Very interesting here to hear Pete say they've been tweaking a few little things in the tacks. Luna Rossa have been dominant in the tacks, not so much today. And I think that Emirates Team New Zealand are playing with their cant a lot going into the tacks. Their boat orientation changes a lot just before their turn, and the Traveller isn't moving. So they're doing something pretty funky with the cant, the dagger board anchored to the boat, that's giving them a nice advantage today.
That was just Vasco Vescoto and Philippe Presti, their coaching staff in there with the after guard. Nathan, or Shirley, let's go out to you. When you see the huddles, like we've seen a couple huddles like that with the Kiwis so far, that's the first kind of let's get the boys together and sit down and try to figure this out huddle we've seen from these guys.
Yeah, it looked pretty animated. Vasco Vescoto, he's part of the coaching team, but he's sort of the mentor in the team, an amazing tactician in his own right, and it was pretty animated there. I think, you know, it's crisis time almost. I mean, how do you answer that? That's not just change the jib. What was interesting to me was actually what Pete said, and we always talk in the Cup about how it's about time and learning, particularly through the Cup. And he said that, you know, that we always thought we were fast, but we were struggling to maneuver. And having that day yesterday, you know, for the whole team to work on those tiny differences today, wow! I mean, what a package! They can turn the corners, and when they're loose, they can fly. It's a big day for both teams.
On board Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, waiting patiently, and thanks for your time, Francesco. You want to talk us through what went down on that race for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we had a fantastic start. Jimmy did a great job off the line and resisting that laugh. He did really, really well. And we tried to keep them behind us, but obviously without success. We have seen the first pass, unfortunately, was against us. But yeah, we are not giving up. We know that we can still, we won some races and we can still win races. So yeah, we'll keep fighting.
Keko, jib size make a difference there? You got a considerably bigger jib. Could that be the difference? That other boat looked pretty quick.
Yeah, I think on the first upwind, looking at our numbers, our jib was the right one for our boat. And probably on the rest of the race, the wind increased a little bit. And yeah, we can improve on the speed. Yeah, we were right on the crossover at the start, so we are still happy with what we choose, and yeah, maybe we still have some performance to gain.
Hey Keko, obviously tough race. Just thinking at that bottom mark first time round, if you had your time again, would you approach it differently?
Yeah, we have analyzed a little bit, a couple of things, and that we can do better to stay elbow out and keep them behind, and we'll try all we can to keep winning races. It's very far from being over yet.
One more to you there, Keko. We saw Vasco and Philippe in there with your afterguard. How do you reset? I assume that's what you guys are talking about. How do you reset after that, after a race like that?
No, honestly, I think the moral of the team is high, and we don't need to. We just keep doing what we've been doing so far. Think about the next race. Nothing differently. I wouldn't change one thing from what we have done so far.
Francesco, as always, thanks for your time. I know you've got to refocus on race 8, so we'll leave you alone.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck. So that's not Nathan Outteridge. That's where Nathan Outteridge would like to be. Out on those crazy foil boards. And why wouldn't you have some fun? Just quickly, after that Francesco Bruni IV, I sensed a mild bit of panic in the voice of Francesco Bruni, just a little bit.
I'm not going to let you use the word panic. I'm going to call it concern. Okay, let's call it concern. There's no way you sail a race like that and you watch that other boat just sail away without definite concern.
Well, let's leave it at that. Concern, the key word after race 7, if you're a fan of Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Emirates Team New Zealand with the win, and Blair Tuke, who's on board there as the flight controller, has the appearance of being a happy-go-lucky sort of guy, but don't be fooled. The 31-year-old has an impressive list of achievements. There's the America's Cup, 8 World Championships, a silver at the London Olympics, and a gold as well at Rio in 2016. You know what? Blair hates to admit it, but his competitive drive is ferocious.
I think what drives me is really the opportunity to always be better, to be a better person, to be a better sailor. You can take what you've done before, both the winning and the losing, and you make sure you draw from that and learn faster to keep improving.
Burling and Tuke putting on an absolute masterclass.
I think you definitely say I'm a competitive person, but I'm not the guy that has to win every card match. But when there's something on the line,
coming from behind, can these guys ever be beaten?
I'll go to the end.
75-foot foiling monohulls like you have never seen before.
A couple of words to describe the AC75. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Happy, big easy.
They are beasts. The noise on board the boat when you're pushing hard, especially going upwind with all the apparent wind over the deck, it's pretty staggering. If you did ever take your helmet or your comms off at that, you'd be blown away. So just to be in there, sailing them, controlling it at that point, so I love it. I wouldn't say I'm scared of the boats or the speeds you're going. You have a respect for the boat and for the speed you're doing. The loads on certain components on the boat are extremely high. So with that comes risks in certain situations. So, part of my role on the boat is to really monitor those during some key times. It's awesome to be able to be out on the water pushing these boats to the limits, learning, developing, finding the edges at time, pulling it back, knowing when you can push hard and when you have to look after something, that's all part of it. I absolutely love it.
Nice one over there, boys.
Emirates Team New Zealand are showing everybody that if you want to win this America's Cup, you're going to have to beat us.
In the words, it says defender, and that kind of means you're defending and you're looking over your shoulder. But, if you approach your campaign like that, then you're going to get beaten because you're not going to be looking forward. You're going to be looking at what other teams are doing and you're going to miss the opportunities to improve. So, pretty early on we said, no, we've got to win this thing again. You're not defending, you're not the defender as such. So that's how we've approached it, and just, trying to really come together as a group to produce the fastest boat and then ultimately race it around the racetrack faster than someone else.
The fans just love it. And those are young sailors wanting to be out on that boat. Te reho tai.
Really, really proud to be racing for it here in New Zealand and showing Kiwis, up close and personal what these boats are and, the top level of sailing now. But if we were to hold up the cup again, here in NZ, that would be unreal.
A little over 15 minutes to race 8. Nathan Outteridge for the first time. Luna Rossa, they've got to come back.
Yeah, this time Luna Rossa got to come back. It's been the Kiwis that have been having the comeback at the second half of the day. And, it's a bit of pressure, but if any team's going to be able to do it, it's Jimmy Spittle and Francesco Bruni. It's a big challenge, and if they can pull it off and level the scores, it's going to keep going.
The America's Cup was once the preserve of old-school yachtsmen. Now it's the go-to event for Olympic athletes. It takes a mix of stamina, speed and strength to power these supercharged boats, which is why more and more teams are utilising the skills of Olympic rowers. Men like Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli's Romano Battisti.
For me, it's very important win to the Cup in America's Cup is very similar a Olympic medal in Olympic game. Tra i miei sogni del cassetto c'era fare le Olimpiadi e un giorno poter provare a partecipare all'America's Cup. Un mio amico che ha fatto canottaggio, Davide Tizzano, lui ha partecipato a 2 edizioni di America's Cup. Ho sempre cercato di imitarlo e provare a un giorno di riuscire a fare il grinder per l'Una Rossa. Sono 2 eventi molto importanti e molto simili, perché entrambi ti fanno spingere al massimo per raggiungere il tuo obiettivo e poi sono eventi che ti trasmettono grandissime emozioni. I love the boat because are really fast.
Here comes Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. Wow!
La prima volta la sensazione è come quella di stare su un treno veloce. È quella la sensazione che ho avuto il primo giorno. Sicuramente è più veloce di una boat rowing. La voglia di competere te lo dà la passione per quello che fai. Cambiare è stato molto duro, perché nel canottaggio i muscoli principali sono le gambe, nel grinder i muscoli principali sono le braccia, quindi ho dovuto stravolgere il mio programma di allenamento in palestra e ricominciare da zero. È stato difficile ma non impossibile, ho fatto dei lunghi allenamenti al canottaggio maniera e poi eccomi qua. Per me la Coppa è importante quanto vincere una medaglia olimpica, perché come lei ha già detto è un trofeo prestigioso che in Italia non è stato mai vinto, quindi sono queste le motivazioni che mi spingono a fare tutto per raggiungere il mio obiettivo.
3, 2, 1, board down.
For me it's very important the partato in America's Cup for my family, my friend and for Italy.
Under 15 minutes to race start in race number 8 of the 36th America's Cup match, and we're on the Corsi, the back paddock, and a shifty course. How has that affected racing today, Kenny?
Well, we talked about it, Nathan. We've talked about it a lot, that we've been in these courses that have had very few shifts, and that probably led to lack of passing. Or just a drag race, and you could pin your opponent into a side of the race course and not let him out. But today was different.
Yeah, today was a little bit different, and it was interesting what Pete Burling said in between races. You know, they got on that left-hand shift, that tack, and then there was a little right-hand shift, and he said it was just enough to get him back into the race, and getting him back into the race meant starboard tack advantage, and that was the result of the race lead change.
For nearly 1,000 years, Māori have used story, song and art to pass on knowledge and preserve cultural traditions and tribal history. Toi Māori, or traditional Māori art, is a fundamental part of New Zealand life, the unique designs and patterns. And in our opening, they were designed by master carver Katz Maihi.
Kia ora, my name is Are Kātera Maihi. To my friends and family, they call me Katz. Carving, tāmoko is all our original written language because we didn't have one, you know, as in we didn't have an alphabet, we didn't have words as such to spell. We utilised the designs that our ancestors left us. We brought that with us from Hawaii, from Polynesian lifestyles. All of our designs derive from nature. All of our designs have a massive reference to all things from nature, because we believe nature is our older brother. The lines within our designs aren't just a single line, they have a connecting point, they have a starting point and an ending point, and they actually continue. When you look at our faces, my mum's chin and my face itself, you can see there's a reflection, and it's also a flowing, natural sort of connection, because it fits with the face. It doesn't just get plastered on like a sticker. Every line on my face, it references certain aspects of what I've done in my life, certain aspects of my ancestors, what they've done. These designs here are referencing the movement of water. We call this pattern here pu horo. Pu means to be explosive, horo means to be quick. So it's more about a propulsion thing. In the opening titles, the brief I was given was to sort of connect to what the wakas are doing, what the boats are doing. So as soon as they said it's for the wakas, I knew exactly what it was. Underwater has to be something that connects the design with the water and the boat. In the air, it has to deal with the sail. So I knew exactly what motifs to use. The spiraling design here, another reference to movement on the water. So when you're basically paddling, you look down at the water next to your waka and you see the movement of the spiraling of the water. So what you'll probably see in the titles is the stingray form. The movement is about how those beings or beasts work in the water. Because these designs are so organic, they can fit to anything. And we like to fit them to certain things like, racing, and that's what the propulsion's about. You got to be the winner, you got to be fast, You've got to select your course and then do all of that stuff. It's what our ancestors did to navigate to get to Aotearoa, They knew where they were going, and we made it. We live around all of this ocean. Sailing is in our culture, sailing is in our every fibre, So I'm glad we got asked to participate in the process.
Time to set for race number 8, and here is the home water team.
Emirates Team New Zealand found that rumored gear that everybody was talking about, and frankly, they hadn't found as yet. Is it wind strength, jib choice, tweaks to the yacht? One thing I know for sure is that a sailor's mindset changes when you think you have a significant speed edge. Burling, Ashby, Tuke, they kept their cool in race 7 after getting rolled at the start, kept it close, and took advantage of a key moment when the Italians gave them a bit of clear air. Now it's time to follow it up. A reminder, nobody has won 2 races in a row as of yet.
Here's the team that's been in the huddle, and now they got to come back and stay in the match.
Well, that was a shock to the system, wasn't it? Jimmy did a great job by winning the pre-start, but unfortunately, they were not able to put their elbows out far enough and keep the faster boat behind. But as Francesco Bruni has said, they are not concerned. They have won races in this series and they're confident they can win more. But you must admit the pressure is now switched to Luna Rossa. Can they level things up by winning today's final race?
Race 8 of the match. Can any team win 2 in a row? You are about to find out. Emirates Team New Zealand will have port entry. Luna Rossa will come in on starboard. Let's go up to Heli 1 and Freddie Carr. What do you make of the course, and what do you feel about this race, Freddie?
Well, the course has kind of changed again. So we saw the left shift at the end of race 7. Ian Murray, the race director, has picked up all marks and rotated the axis of the course to match that shift around to the left. What that has done is put a big island about 100-150 meters upwind of the windward gate. Left and right, the breeze looks even in pressure, but there are some big shifts rattling down this race course. This is a tactician's dream.
Both jibs on the boats. We talked a lot about the jibs in the last race. They look to me to be the same. The Italians still have a bigger jib, more sail area than the Kiwis. Kenny, this is a massive race, isn't it? Win 2 races on the bounce. You have momentum, you have confidence, and it's pretty tough for your opponent to dig deep and come back from that. This is a massive race in the 36th America's Cup.
Shirley, I actually got confirmation there were 2 jib size differences between the boats in that last race. J 1.5 on the Italian boat, and this is all, remember, this is predicated to wind speed. You're trying to figure out wind speed and what gear you put up for the whole race. You got to anticipate a half an hour, right? So it was a J 1.5 on the Italian boats and a J 3 on the Kiwi boat, and yeah, I hear you. It sure looks like a big difference still. So have the Italians learned their lesson? We're about to find out.
Kenny, perhaps with this left
Kenny,
hand. Go ahead, Shirley.
I just think it looks like a slightly different racetrack now. It's cloudy on the left-hand side, and we're not seeing the top numbers in wind speed that we saw before. To me, it looks like it could drop.
This is the race committee. The wind sampling is complete, and this race is live.
Look at this picture from up above. 7 knots at the top mark. You know, if you were on your bigger jib right now, you might actually be starting to smile and say, hey, when we get to the top mark and that wind shutter that Freddie Carr was pointing out from that island, you might be smiling. You might be thinking we've actually got the call right this race, you know.
I agree.
The wind ranges between the jib codes are so fine that if you get the right jib on, you can go 3 knots quicker. If you get the wrong one on, you're out of phase, and well, we might see the other boat being quicker this time.
Fascinating. We asked Peter Burling in between while laying on his boat yesterday about he kept fiddling around with the back end of that sail plan, the clue of the mainsail. They've actually done a lot of work on it overnight. It actually looks completely different, the clue box. That's fascinating. They keep making their boats faster every day.
Nathan, let's go back to the jibs that they're both running. What do you make now? What are you thinking? You take a look at Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli's jib, and then you look at Emirates Team New Zealand. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking it's below 10 knots. It's not 11, 12 knots anymore, and so the bigger jib on Prada, I think, is probably going to be back in range again. And I think Team New Zealand are probably hoping the breeze comes up a bit and get their boat back in range.
Emirates rolling the dice?
No, I think Emirates doing the same thing they did in the race before. They're just going to use the same equipment. And, you know, you've got to pick this jib a few minutes before the start, and they might just be a little bit caught out by this left shift and maybe breeze trending down.
This is race number 8 of the 36th America's Cup match. Emirates Team New Zealand, the defender, have a 4-3 lead. Remember, it's first to 7 as they come in on port entry. They'll be followed in by Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli on starboard. It was an interesting start in race number 7. What can they throw at us in race number 8?
1, boat drop.
Turning.
Punch in through, punch in through.
He's quite light.
Got a little loose there, and they couldn't turn the boat quite as quickly as they wanted to. They were a little late on the board drop. Really wanted to keep the gap closed between the 2 boats. The Italians did, but kind of fell off their foils. Big gap, maybe a little advantage to the Kiwis here in the early moments of this pre-start.
Down bows. Jibe inside.
Yeah, go ball here. Yeah, he's still reaching at it. Okay, he jumped.
So Luna Rossa jumps early, jump them here. It's all about who's, if they're on time. If both boats are a little bit late, Luna Rossa looking strong, but if they're early, Team New Zealand have the advantage.
They jumped at 117 there. That's when they started to turn. That's usually very early. Lighter air for sure. It looks like a big left shift to me out on the race course as well, which could bode well for the Italians with a big pin end favor or a left-hand side of the starting line favor.
It's normal mode. Let's try and get the boat going.
Good pressure in front. The pin favorite by pressure.
Just heard Blair Chuk saying they're 1 late for the pin end, so with this lighter wind, the boats are taking a long time to accelerate. Team New Zealand going 5 knots faster on it. That could be critical in this start.
Should go head back here.
We can come up a bit if you want, Pete. Can I go?
Speeds are even now. Good gap to windward right now for Emirates Team New Zealand. Could be a pretty even start coming off the line here.
Yep. Big push here, fellas. Lining up.
Go. Race 8 of the America's Cup match is on. Clean start by both.
Okay, not super strong here, Pete. Anybody?
Instantly, they've gone into a high mode on Rossa. They're trying to force Emirates Team New Zealand into attack, and there they go straight away. So first blood goes to Rossa.
Kiwis got a little close there at the last minute. They were almost too fast in that whole restart. They were so quick they couldn't keep that gap between the boats. Spithill immediately went into a high mode to push them off. Freddie, who's going to the right side of the race course right now?
Okay, good pressure. There's still just a little bubble of breeze on the left-hand side where Prada are. Still a little bit soft where Emirates Team New Zealand are going. It's going to be very, very close when they come back together.
Shirley, which boat would you want to be on right now?
As soon as you can here. Very soft.
I'd want to be on the Kiwi boat on the left-hand side.
That's not allowed, Shirley.
I definitely feel there's weather happening. Lots of clouds on the left-hand side. We saw in that pre-start a big left shift. You spotted it, Kenny. So there's stuff happening on the left-hand side. And the trend in wind speed is definitely down. We've got an average now of just about 8 knots. It's a different race to race 1 of today.
3, 2, 1.
He's a little lifted to leeward. He's tacking down.
Nathan, in the past, I'd say this is the race. The cross is the race. And we did see a pass, so we can't be that confident right now. But this is so critical, and it looks like it's gone the way of the Italians.
I think we cross. The top left could, seems a bit better, but not here.
So they don't tack on them. There was a lot of discussion about where the best pressure was. And 70 metres, maybe that's not far enough of a lead to tack and consolidate, or maybe they think it's a bit softer on the left boundary. But for sure, this is more of a tactician's race with the wind being a bit patchy and shifty. Going to be less match racing, less controlling of your opponent. Makes the race way more open.
Look for Pietro Sabello to start voicing his opinion a little bit more.
Pressing here. Yes. Speed 27.
Stand by, boys.
Here. Yes.
Going in 3, 2, 1. Board down. Turn.
My runner. Trev.
Cross.
Just been looking at the observations on all the different wind observations around the race course. Wind is trending down everywhere out there at the moment. It's not just this race course. Other side out on course, the breeze is coming down. So surely you're right, there's some weather out there and it looks like it's definitely changing the race dynamic at the moment.
So we are in a little righty. More pressure to windward. Front.
You are 5 lengths ahead, 6 lengths ahead.
Making way.
A little stretch by the Italians. Confidence booster early on in this race. Nathan, they needed a confidence booster after that first race. Right now, you got to give them credit. Looks like they've chosen the right jib. They've chosen the right side of the race course. They chose the right way to get into the starting box. Really good turnaround by Bruni, Spithill, and company.
Just normal mode is good.
I told you, Francesco Bruni said, well, he told us, really. We're confident, we can win races, we're not worried. Just leave it to us. You do your commentary and we'll do the sailing, is what he said to us, basically.
I think what he said is that's why you guys are in the commentary boat.
100%, that's what we're saying.
Come up, Gecko. More pressure also coming to windward.
Yeah.
Big lefty here.
Yeah. Keep it
very
fast.
phase. Nose lower from the deck. Nose lower from the deck.
Pressing.
Soft.
Stand by, boys.
Early in leg one, race number 8, it's advantage Luna Rossa. Freddie, what do you make of it?
So I'm not looking at the wind on the racecourse right now. I'm looking a couple of miles upwind. I'm looking to see what's coming, what's going to be on the leg 4, 5 and 6, and it is going to get lighter. The breeze is softening up upwind of us, so the rest of this race I expect the breeze to be trending down.
About 5.
The breeze is about 10, 15 degrees further left than the axis of the course. Obviously, that's going to affect the next leg as well. It's going to be pretty hard to get past if you're behind.
Yeah.
Give credit to the weather team of Luna Rossa right now, Nathan.
Rush for the mark, I mean.
Absolutely. It seems so far in this race they've picked the right jib. And right now it's setting up that Emirates Team New Zealand aren't laying, so they're going to attack and go right mark. I expect Prada will do the same. They'll also attack and go right mark, and they're going to keep him in check a lot more this race. That's one thing for sure. They're not laying over, so both boats attacking and taking the right top mark here.
Yeah, stay here, no problem.
Top gate for the first time in race number 8 as Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli leading Emirates Team New Zealand around the right-hand marker. In race number 1, they led by 8 seconds around that top mark. Going to be a little bit more in race number 8.
Yeah. 5 away. 3, 2, 1. Away you go.
16 seconds. Now to chase downwind.
Not sure about Nelly drive.
To let everybody at home know that kind of grinding sound, we believe that's the hydraulics working to move the traveler, that the car that moves the biggest sail on the boat, the mainsail back and forth. We think that's we're not doing that on purpose. We've asked them, we know that it's a little bit uncomfortable to hear, but
no lower, Jimmy. No lower,
it is necessarily to make this boat go so fast.
Just saw a bit of an error there on Luna Rossa. They jibed and didn't trim the jib on, and you can see the lead is already coming down. You could hear Francesco Bruni saying that. See how easy it is right now, that jib, the front sail on Luna Rossa is open and twisted. Potentially there's an issue on board, or they just didn't turn it fast enough. Shirley, what are you spotting from the water with that jib trim?
No question.
They got a normal trim now, Pietro.
Yeah, I saw exactly the same. Actually, we just heard them. They've got normal sail trim now. That's a really long time with that front sail eased, and they've lost. I mean, the gap looks probably about half what they had before. Massive error.
Not a huge difference in pressure, eh? I think we stay on.
It's becoming more and more of a tactician. It still looks under trim to me. I reckon they could have an override on the winch. For you sailors out there, remember the winches, when you get override, you get the rope all tangled in itself. Time will tell if it doesn't release on this job, they might actually have an issue on board.
Traveler, go traveler, go traveler.
Okay.
Still very east on that jib.
You can swing at the moment, but maybe not in 20.
Nice and smooth, boys.
And the lead is decreasing here the whole time.
One and diving.
Good driving is going straight for us.
Jib on, boys. Jib's open.
Roll it down.
It's getting softer there. Freddie, is it getting softer out there right now?
It's getting super soft, Nathan, as I'm talking. I see Emirates Team New Zealand touch down in that critical jibe of Prada's hip, and Prada are sailing away in pressure. Emirates Team New Zealand are stuck in the water right now. Huge gains to Prada.
Big moment in race 8 of the match. Touchdown Emirates Team New Zealand. Advantage Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli.
A long way to go on this race still. As soon as you fall off the first, you know there's a long way to go.
Big mistake number 1 in this series. Big mistake. We'd go back to that jib call.
2 knots PMGs, not very fast.
Coming up a little bit.
Shirley, talk to us. It just breeze looks like it's dropping out like crazy, or do they just have the wrong sail up? Luna Rossa looks okay.
It's got patchier, Kenny, and we've had down to sort of 6s as well. I mean, average across the course of 7. The Italians as well, sort of up and down a little bit now. They managed to come back down and sort of in a bubble of breeze, but that's fading away. It's tricky conditions now, right on the edge of managing to stay flying or not.
No one saw that coming.
BMG, boys. BMG.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, right now sailing away from Emirates Team New Zealand on the second leg of 6 in race 8 of the match. And that face says it all. Flight controller Blair Tuke, they're beached right now.
Shut down. Pretty stalled on the main pickups.
Meanwhile, we see in the background that Luna Rossa pulling off another nice foiling jibe, and Emirates Team New Zealand are actually going upwind. They have to go upwind to build speed. You see their boat speed, it's 12 knots. They're not even taking off. We're in this wind range now, Freddie, aren't we, where it's hard to take off. You need to tow to get on the foils, but once you're on the foils, you're fine. So is there going to be enough wind to get them back up on the foils this race?
No, not the way they're going now. They're sailing towards less pressure, and I heard Pete say jibe back and give it a go the other way, and they should 100% do that. The right-hand side of the course is light. They will not get on the foil heading that way.
Boys, let's keep it rolling.
Absolutely incredible turn of events. I mean, they were. Let's just do a little recap here verbally. They're about to almost roll them. Instead of getting committed to the weather side or the left-hand side of Luna Rossa coming into that situation, they decide to jibe away at the last second, so they're not, in essence, hooked, right, by the lured boat. Boom.
So, Kenny, in that situation, they're coming in fast, as you were saying. Was that a seat-of-the-pants decision that backfired, or should they have been more patient there?
No question it's seat of the pants. And by the way, who are we to say that their seat of the pants isn't really pretty darn good at this stage? But yeah, that's kind of a 50-50 call at that stage, right? It's either it's split second. There's no conversation about that. That's for sure.
It's instincts at that moment. You're either going to stay close and keep the race close, or you're going to try and jibe and take the lead.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli about to complete the second leg in race number 8, and they have gapped it on Emirates Team New Zealand, who are still trying to get up on their foils, way back up on the course. First windward leg done by Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, and around they go. And they'll be smiling. They'll be smiling inside and outside.
Long way to go here, though, boys.
That's exactly where I was going. I'm thinking we've got 2 more laps to go here, and these guys are going just fine. Luna Rossa are going just fine in the pressure they have, but they've got to go back through that light wind. There we go. Emirates Team New Zealand now up and foiling, so clearly there's enough breeze out there to get up and go, but you've got to find those puffs, and this is a monster of a lead at the moment, isn't it, Shirley?
Okay, boys. 3, 2, 1.
Nathan, I'm thinking back to those pre-Christmas races that had us all on the edge of the seat. You cannot take anything for granted. And it is getting patchier and patchier, cloudier and cloudier over the course. It's a long way to go.
Long way to go, but let's just take you back to that moment. As Kenny said before, they were looking to roll over the top and then boom.
Yeah, it is. It's a total, it's just an instinct move. Instead of trying to get themselves kind of caught on the high side or the left-hand side of Luna Rossa, they decide to jibe away. You kind of jibe away, you jibe through a little bit of bad air from the boat in front of you, right?
Yeah, I was wondering that. I was wondering if they jibe through the bad air of themselves, but also of Luna Rossa. It was in hindsight, I'm sure they'd look at that back, and there they go jibing and splitting the course and trying to sail around them as opposed to following them, but potentially they've just jibed into the gas of the both 2 boats, and that's a huge penalty for that.
There it is, that move, and I bet they wish they'd had that back, but like Shirley and Freddie have both told us, goodness gracious, it got right fast. Here it is, Nathan, this is the move. They didn't want to get trapped on the left-hand side, so they just instinctively decide to jibe. And remember, the bad air is coming back from right to left across your screen from Luna Rossa, so they kind of jibe through some bad air, combine that with a smaller jib, and a big light spot. Well, we saw what happened.
Well, I would say, Kenny, if it was over 10 knots of breeze, that would never be an issue. But as soon as it drops below that 10 knots, those wind shadows are huge compared to... And here's a really tight situation. These boats are on different legs. New Zealand will get around them here, but this will be... Haven't been that close for a while now, have they?
Might be a little gas, but all good.
It's Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli on leg 3. Emirates Team New Zealand still to complete leg number 2. You wouldn't have picked that in a million years.
Like Shirley said, we haven't seen this in a long time. This is the drama that these boats present.
Yep.
You just never know.
Pressure all the way down here, right?
This feels like the World Series all over again. People dropping off their foils, stuck.
So Freddie, just thinking, this race is obviously a long way in it between the two boats. I guess weather is the thing that's going to play a factor now. Is it looking better, or is this wind still trending down?
It looks like lefty coming over here.
No, mate, the wind is trending down. It's a pretty simple formula for Prada, isn't it? If you keep your hull dry, you're going to win the race and go and level the series. But I'm looking upwind of where we are now, and it is trending down further and further and further. There is potential for another restart in this race, because there is right breeze at the bottom to bring Emirates Team New Zealand back up, and it is soft at the top. Some really important manoeuvres coming up on Prada here. They have to stay on the foil.
I remember sailing moths, foiling boats in these light winds, and they're actually the most stressful sailing conditions. The same with the catamarans when we were racing in Bermuda. That light, marginal foiling conditions are for sure the most stressful of these foiling boats.
Emirates Team New Zealand get around the bottom mark and complete leg number 2. They are trailing by 4 minutes and 8 seconds.
This series is schizophrenic.
It's nuts.
I mean, every Kiwi, you could hear it outside. Every Kiwi in the world thought after that first race, okay, finally got them where we want them. This is exactly what we were expecting. Oh boy.
It's fantastic, isn't it, guys?
Big lefty, 340.
Well, it keeps keeping people come back to watch this race, and it looks at this point that we might be all tied up after race day 5.
Oh, the press. The righty here. Big righty. Sorry, I didn't see that one coming. Problem. Okay, building again.
Very stressful times here right now for Luna Rossa. If it's getting softer and softer at the top of the course, they've got to get in and out of these top marks. If they fall off the foils at the top, they're going to struggle to rebuild and get going again. They could be in a position like Emirates Team New Zealand. A lot of spectators up there, isn't there, Freddie? That island still stopping all the breeze. You've got to get around that top mark and just get downwind and nail your first jibe and breathe a sigh of relief.
That's right, and I just heard Keiko Bruni say little righty here, big righty here. So I instantly shoot my glance over to the right-hand side, the breeze that's coming from the right.
No matter what.
That's patchy against still, so they've got 2 really big tanks coming up. 2 really big. An absolute test of their piloting skills.
Going 3, 2, 1, turning.
Dobbiamo trimmare lì, ragazzi.
Nathan, do we go right back to the fact that the sail setup on Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli has picked the conditions better?
Well, it's definitely helping, and as Freddie said, that's a critical moment. They nailed that first tack. No touchdown. Boat speed's looking great. Their angles are not going to look good. They're going to be sailing very low angles to keep the boats up to speed to go on the foils. There's a bottom speed for entry of these tacks. It's somewhere way over 25 knots.
This wind direction is a right, yeah?
They're talking a lot about the wind, a lot more than they were in races gone before.
Right out of the right mark too, so no drama.
Speed here.
But Stephen, for sure, the bigger jib, more power.
Yeah,
it's critical in this race at the moment, I think.
Do you come back and ask the question, why the smaller jib on Emirates Team New Zealand?
Listen, I give them full credit for using a bigger jib because the whole world, including their own team in that first race, would have been saying, what the heck did we sail with a big jib for? They come right back with a bigger jib than their competitor. Give full credit to their weather team. Guy named Cappy, who I use all the time, Miguel Sanchez. This is great Spanish weather guy. I didn't realize he was in charge of their weather program. But keep it out of the water, boys. This lead could evaporate very quickly.
Yeah, crossing and
if they take off, they might just save this here, but that is what they don't want to be doing. 16 knots is not foiling, and here it comes.
You do that? Okay.
I think so,
if you don't think you're going to take off,
Yeah. Okay. Slowly coming out, boys.
There might just be another twist in race number 8 of this America's Cup match.
Just going out in the can.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, as they inch towards the top gate and try and complete leg 3, are off their foils.
So they've decided to stay in the water, get around the mark if they can, and then they'll try to build after the mark.
Release, boys.
Is this when you look over your shoulder and say, how far behind are Emirates Team New Zealand?
Not yet, not yet. You're just concentrating on your own boat. Let's get it out of the water.
This is when the heart rate starts going up on the helmsman. This is exactly when the stress starts developing.
Maybe we need to take a look at the biometrics and see what the heart rate is doing, particularly when it comes to Francesco Bruni, and see what happens, because this is the pressure. This is maybe a little bit more of an adrenaline push.
You're clear of the mark?
Yep. They're going 90 through.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli.
Max flat.
Just cruise around the top gate and complete leg 3.
Better boat. Decent pressure here.
Building speed slowly. 90-degree true wind angle. I don't know if they're going to get this done before they get to the edge of the race course.
Hey, Freddie, what do you see? Where's the best pressure up here for Luna Rossa to get going in? Are they going the right way, or do they need to jibe?
It's similar to what we saw with Team New Zealand when they were trying to build out to the right-hand side as you look upwind. That's not the place you want to be accelerating towards.
This is the race committee. We are shortening the course to 5 legs, finishing at the windward gate.
One more down, one more up. They're taking one leg away from this race course because the breeze has dropped dramatically. Kiwis on the foils, chewing up ground as we speak.
It's a little bit of a tough here, but yeah, I think.
If you're on Emirates Team New Zealand right now, you're looking across, you're taking just getting a gauge of what's happening with Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. What are you thinking right now?
Good pressure to...
Maybe you're looking toward the heavens a little bit.
Stephen, you're thinking we need to nail our tacks as we get up there, because clearly it's softer at the top than where we currently are.
This is the umpires. Boundary penalty, Italy. Boundary penalty, Italy.
Ooh, that's a bit of an unforced error, but I'm pretty sure that penalty is going to slide past very quickly when they're not foiling.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Team New Zealand made another tack, so they're still foiling. Every time a boat makes a maneuver on the foil is golden. Every time you fall off, you start to get very stressed out.
Just a note, we are down to a 5-leg race, not 6 as originally thought. Look at this. This is when Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli went down.
And look at that white water coming off the leeward foil. They were very high on entry, and it looked like that new foil that they landed on just lost its lift and grip. Fascinating. You know, here, let's watch it again. It's the board that drops. Let's follow this board that drops as it goes down. Watch for any white water coming off it. Ready, and it's... Didn't look too bad from that angle, but clearly it's getting lighter, and it's the load transfer, the lift from one foil to the other. The smoother you do that lift transfer, the better.
And just take note, Nathan and Kenny, it's a little bit closer, Emirates Team New Zealand. They're tacking away, and now they can see Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli.
They can see the whites of their eyes right now. This is starting to get scary for the Italians.
They've literally not gone downwind at all.
Freddie, what are you seeing from up there, my friend?
I'm seeing right now this is the tack of this race, which is coming up on Emirates Team New Zealand. If they stick this tack and foil around the windward gate, there will be a lead change. But Prada are sailing into better pressure on the left-hand side. These are the moments that will decide this race.
What must the heart rates be like in the American Cup village right now? Here it comes.
Let's watch this.
What happens?
This is the tack.
One, and forward. Haven't got much yet.
And I think they've nailed it, guys. Still 20 knots of boat speed. They're foiling.
Go deeper and just trying to down here.
Going to go through the wind shadow in a second here of Emirates Team New Zealand of Luna Rossa. If they make it through that, they could be off. Luna Rossa still below 15 knots, not foiling.
Be real careful already. 90 after. Yeah.
Emirates Team New Zealand about to complete the leg. They're still up on their foils. It's like, I feel like it's like threading the needle here. You know how you struggle to thread the needle?
Stephen, you're standing in the box right now. You're making me nervous.
They're not even close up. They're going to have to jibe here on the Italians. This has turned into a full-blown disaster for this boat, from being almost 3/4 of a
This
leg
is the
ahead.
umpires. Italy boundary penalty. Italy boundary penalty.
Broken heart. My goodness, that is just incredible to watch.
Lead change in race 8 after being way down, and we mean way down. Emirates Team New Zealand lead Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, who cannot at the moment get up on their foils. That's a gut-wrencher for Luna Rossa.
You're going to see the Kiwis reaching all over the race course right now, Nathan. Heading for the mark is not a priority. It's just staying up on those foils.
Yeah, these light marginal days, it's all about getting on your foils, keeping your apparent wind up. As soon as you drop below 20 knots, it's danger time, and they're going to keep this going as fast as they can.
Look at the amount of camber in the bottom of that mainsail right there. I've never seen a deeper sail in my life. They're doing everything possible to add power to the sail plan.
Soft here, but I think our only chance is still trying to take off, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there's no point on trying to go.
Just listen to those comments on Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, and you can just hear the sinking feeling. Yes, though, we've got 1 and a bit legs to go. They've changed it to an upwind finish.
It's a fall off the foil, lead again. We've seen it happen once here. There's no reason why it can't happen again. But man, you got to feel for those Italians right now, Nathan. We've all been in crummy spots before, but on the world stage.
Pressing, back press. 1 and forward. Pressing with power.
That was so close to coming off the foil once again. It's all about managing the lift from one foil to the other, using as much power as you can. And Kenny, you were saying the camber, the amount of power they're generating in their sails. They've got a smaller jib on, but that main has got so much camber in it. Look at the angle they go through the jibes. As soon as you get the apparent wind up again, you're off and going. It's this is very light, tricky conditions, and this is when the skill of the sailors really comes into sailing these boats.
It's been short, I think. Just
Guys, I'm seeing a little bit of a change in the weather picture up here. To the bottom of the course is what I'd call well mixed. There's not any holes in the breeze at the bottom of the course, so effectively the further you get down the course, it's going to be easier to stick those jibes, so life is getting easier for Emirates Team New Zealand, but they've still got to go back upwind for the last time, and it is getting worse and worse at the top of the course. Bottom of the course should be more straightforward in terms of manoeuvres.
So I guess the big question is if Emirates Team New Zealand can keep sticking these jibes all the way to the bottom, we start to look at the clock. Are they going to get there in time for the time limit?
The Italians got to be getting close right now.
17 knots for the speed dropping, so that's 4 stalling, and you've got to see that speedo climbing. If it comes up and drops back down, they're not going to take off. And as we see once again, Emirates Team New Zealand pulling off another clean jibe there.
2, 1, and pump. Slowly coming down.
So Italians doing over 24 knots. They're up and foiling, but they're out of the race course. They're going to get another penalty here for being out of the course, and
they don't care at this stage. They're just desperately trying to get on the foils,
Italy,
which it looks
at
like
the moment,
they
you're
have.
a double penalty. You need to get back in the course.
If you are just joining this race, if you've got home from work, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, wherever you are around the world, it wasn't too long ago that Rossa Prada Pirelli had over a 4-minute lead on the defender Emirates Team New Zealand until they touched down. And that has literally been flipped on its head. But there's an encouraging sign if you're a fan of the Italian team, up on their foils.
This is like sailing we've never seen before. It is, Freddie, not to bring up a little bit of a bad subject, but man, what's it like just being plastered in the water like that and not being able to get up?
It totally sucks, to be honest. It's no fun at all.
What do you really mean?
Italy, you have about 30 meters to clear.
And it's really hard. I come back to how it's actually harder work in this lighter air for the grinders than it is in 15 knots. You're having to be so dynamic,
you now have a third penalty,
pumping the traveller, changing the sail shape. You are max heart rate at 6 knots.
In the America's Cups that you've seen, Kenny Reid, have you seen anything like we've seen in the last 10 to 15 minutes?
No. New boats, new problems.
Italy, 30 meters to clear.
They're just trying to clear their penalty on the Italian boat at the top of the course right now. They're
Italy, penalty clear.
They finally got their penalty clear. Listen, they went out of bounds on purpose, right, Nathan? They went out of bounds because they were so close to getting up on the foils. They said, I'm not jibing right now. We're going to get up no matter what.
They took off on the boundary, so they had no option there.
Emirates Team New Zealand about to round the bottom gate for the last time because they've changed it down to a 5-leg race. So they're basically going around the mark and heading home.
3, 2, 1, turning, foot down.
Little pressure down.
That says it all. 10 minutes ago, those flags were being wrapped up.
I'm sweating, and I'm not even, we're not out there. Whoever thought light air sailing would become just so incredibly bizarre, interesting, fun to watch? As long as, I guess, let me preface. Sorry for the Italian fans right now, because man, oh man, do we feel sorry. We feel sorry for you, and even more so, we feel for your team out there. One tough break, and wow, what a turn.
Let's go on to chase one, Shirley Robinson, because we love to talk about the psychology of sailing. For a moment there, Shirley, Rossa Prada Pirelli were in the box seat, and suddenly it's been taken away from them.
It's stressful to watch, Stephen, that's for sure. It's not over yet either. The weather's playing its part. The wind's gone to the right a bit more, another 10 degrees. 30 degrees from the maximum left we've seen, and it feels like it's increased a little bit. We're up at an average of 8 knots, so potentially good for the Kiwi team and the Kiwi fans. They look like they have a clear run into the finish.
It's 20 left at the moment.
Do we go back to the talk about the jibs?
No.
Jibs are irrelevant at this stage.
That was all the tack.
Yeah, I think Nathan picked it up. It'll be interesting to talk to these guys if they had a problem, or was there some sort of a dislocated, kind of board drop during that one tack, whether that had influence on it or not.
As we were approaching that top mark, Freddie and I were talking back and forth a bit about 2 critical tacks. You make those 2 tacks, get around the mark, and you're off. And the first one they nailed, and the second one they didn't. there was something wrong. They overloaded the new foil as they were turning onto it. Maybe the old board came up too early, but see how long Team New Zealand kept both boards in. That just shares the load smoothly. If they just lifted the old board too soon, overload the new foil, come off the foil.
It's coming a little bit low for something in the water. Nice.
Soft spot there coming up.
Took looking pretty relaxed there, top right. Glennie Ashby pops up on the bottom left of your screen.
Have you boundary tech here again, eh? Yeah, I think so. How's your balance there, Thursday? Oh, about as good as it's ever going to be with a set off an 8 knots. Yeah.
Pretty chilled, aren't they?
Jib size, though. They're talking about the jib size. This setup in 8 knots is as good as it's going to be, which means it's not great, but let's just make it work.
Does that not tell the story of a day for Luna Rossa holding her head in your hands? For a moment, victory was there.
Full forwards.
And then something takes it away.
Why they play the game, Stephen?
You know, Kenny, it's one of those wow moments.
I'll give it to you.
Easy leg.
And out.
Mistakes can really hurt, can't they? One mistake early on from Team New Zealand jibing into the dirt. Luna Rossa make one mistake and a bad tack, and now they're waiting for the other team to make the next mistake.
Frankly, I feel terrible for these guys. They were sailing one heck of a race.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. Coming to the bottom gate for the last time. It's an upwind finish, as told us by the race committee. It'll get finished within time. And they are finally on their way home to complete race 8 of the match.
Remember, the course has been shortened 1 full leg, so they're finishing upwind at this time, and the Kiwis are heading that way with a lead of almost 2,000 meters heading towards the finish line.
Definitely better for another little while here. It's got another 30 in it over the next dam track here. We're almost boundary tech, you know. Yeah, it looks nice good there. Nice. Have to take a little bit up if you want to, people.
So the next tack from Emirates Team New Zealand is going to be in good pressure on the left-hand boundary. They're then going to head out on port to the right-hand side of the course. That tack is going to be massive. It is softer on that right-hand side. They have got to stick. Not this tack coming up. That's in good pressure. It's the tack after this one, tacking from port to starboard. If they stay on the foil there, they might be home and hosed.
Freddie's onto this. He's building suspense. Thank you, Freddie.
Waiting for something to happen. We've seen plenty already in this 8th race of the match. Massive leads by one, shrunk, and now a massive lead by the other. And that other is that yacht that you see in front of you, the defender Emirates Team New Zealand. If everything goes to plan, they'll be the first team to win 2 races on a single day. But just hold on for a moment.
Quite a good shift, I think, a little bit of pressure too. We're already quite high, so up. Could I work out whether we want to go one back?
Yeah, there's a little bit of tension out there. Those flags will come up when they cross the line.
Finish, I think, eh? Yep.
One and in, Nathan, one and in.
Talk about edgier seats.
Just keep an eye on it after the lay, just see how it is. Yeah. Lighter. A little bit now.
Freddie Carr called it. Watch this tack.
Up at the flip. Yeah.
Is anyone breathing?
It gets much lighter blade than before.
This is it. Italian hearts are broken or saved. Let's see how this tack goes.
Here we go.
2, 1, and forward. All good, you boys, nice.
Player 2 calls it, all good, boys. That was as slick as it gets. Kind of a big overstand here, right? Just to make sure
doesn't matter how far you go, just keep it on the foil, boys.
In one of the craziest races we have seen in this 2021 Cup match, Emirates Team New Zealand have come from behind and are the first team to win 2 races in a single day. They lead 5-3.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, away you go. We're done, boys. Roger that. Beautiful, nice. Just watch the camera catch going, no lower, please, no lower. It's 2 boards for a round up. Oh, yeah. Yep, 2, 1, all clear.
You see a few taps. That's emotion out of the Kiwis. That was emotion like I've never seen out of a Kiwi.
You think the fans are relieved, Nathan? How about that crew right there?
That's a big smile.
Now look at Pete Burling's teeth. He's smiling. He is happy after that. That was a stressful race, and man, when you think about the skill to sail these boats when it gets so light, you know, to execute each of those maneuvers, it is not an easy thing to do. And when you're that far behind, you just got to have belief. Keep pushing, and eventually the other team makes a mistake and they capitalize.
With a jib about half the size as it should have been, you have to be crushed for these guys. Great start, great first couple legs, one mistake. And hey, welcome to the modern America's Cup, everybody. One mistake in conditions like this. Like Nathan said, we've never seen anything like this before.
We talked about yesterday potentially being a moving day. Didn't get anything. Today is potentially the biggest moment in this regatta so far. Finally, one team has a clean advantage.
Somebody did something right on this boat. There's no question about that. The holy mackerel! Again, this is a shocker. There's some smiles and some big. You know, we might have dodged a bullet here, fellas. That you can't help but feel that if you're part of that team right now.
You think the pressure's been slightly eased off that team all of a sudden?
Yeah, great.
You're sailing at home, you dock out with thousands of fans, you have the pressure of being the defender, you're on home waters, you trail by 4 minutes, you pull off a win after you win the first race. Yeah, I think it's been eased a little bit.
Yeah, but you were behind.
I wasn't behind. Emirates Team New Zealand were behind.
I'm saying, I'm thinking you as in the boat. You also got to believe, Nathan, they got some work to do in that condition. You can go. It's going to be this condition tomorrow, lighter air. You could lose 2 races in a day to this boat, no question about it.
Absolutely. I think today ended up being a sailor's race, didn't it? You know, the boats were pretty even, particularly in the second race. The first race, it's a bit windier and they were going quite fast, but that looks like exhaustion to me. These guys, to sail the boat, the grinders are putting up so much power, and that looks like someone who's been putting a lot of effort into getting that boat home.
Wow.
But Kenny, you're absolutely right. Anyone can win races when it gets this light, and that one for sure doesn't feel like it went down to the wire, but there was a few critical moments in it.
That was grinder Mike Lee. Coming out the back of that.
Well, Freddie called it. He said it's almost harder to be grinding in that light stuff than it is in a breeze.
Prada, Trev.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli on their way in to finish race number 8. They will have felt like this one has been taken away from them. Just remember, at one stage, they led this race as what you might describe a country mile. And then they dumped it.
Well, we're going to find out what leadership is all about with these guys. There's no question about that.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli.
Bad luck, boys.
They will continue to fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they cross the line to finish race 8 of the match, but they're down by 2. Confirmation of the 8th race in the 36th America's Cup match. Emirates Team New Zealand win by 3 minutes and 55 seconds. Most importantly, in the bigger picture, they now take a 5-3 lead in the match. Remembering, it's the first to 7 wins the cup. if you thought the likes of Mike Lee were feeling pressure and feeling as though they've just been on a marathon ×4, this commentary box looks a little wrecked as well, to be fair.
Well, I'm going to regret saying this, but that was an 8-minute swing. Ahead to behind, an 8-minute swing in a 25-minute race. Don't make me eat I'm trying to help you out here, Stephen. Don't make me eat my words.
It has been an amazing day on the Hauraki Gulf, out on the back paddock, but you heard as Emirates Team New Zealand crossed the line, they knew they'd made a big move.
There's some sneaky smiles going on around all those boats right now. They know they just dodged one. There's no question about that.
We will go to Blair Tuke shortly on Emirates Team New Zealand to get a reaction on what has been a monumental victory on the 5th day of racing. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. It's not going to be much fun having a chat, but they have been forthright all throughout this regatta, and they'll tell us exactly what went down on Luna Rossa when they were in charge and then saw that monumental lead go away. Emirates Team New Zealand lead 5-3 in the match. Time to go on board with flight controller Blair Tuke. Congratulations, mate. You want to talk us through that one?
Yeah, well, what a race. It's certainly one to keep. There was a pretty unreal fight back from the guys there. Obviously, we made a pretty costly error jibing right behind them on the first downwind and fell off the foils, but got it back up reasonably quickly, and then started a great race from there. And obviously they made a mistake in one of the attacks at the top mark here underneath Motahi. It's really light wind and patchy, and they made a mistake, and we never looked back.
Blair, you ever sail a race like that with just kind of an emotional roller coaster? You ever sailed anything like that before?
Probably not with this many people watching. That was it's unreal. Another great turnout even on a weekday here. Obviously we're finishing at the top mark, so riding by the spectators again underneath Motahi. So yeah, it was some race, and obviously we were on the wrong jib there. Those real bottom end conditions, which made it a little bit harder. But we've done a lot of practice recently in the real bottom end, and did really nice technique through all those manoeuvres to keep it going. And pretty tough one for the big fellas here. Marius just here, he's pretty tired. All the boys went till the end there, so when you have a race where you're doing a lot of takeoffs like that and big controls, changes of the sails, it's tough for the boys, so huge effort to those lads.
Yeah, Blair, we could see a lot of the grinders looked pretty spent after that race. It's obviously very physical, particularly when it gets light. It's a lot of technique to keep these boats going. It's very impressive to see the comeback. How was the mood? How are you guys feeling when you went around that bottom mark and you're 4 minutes behind, and how do you keep composed and get back into it?
Well, by the time we went around the bottom mark, we're probably in a little bit better mood than we were when we were off the foils, just 100, 200 metres downwind of us here. That was pretty low, but once we got back and going, we knew it was shifting. There was a chance that they could come off, and if we just had to keep pushing hard, and if they were to do that, we were going to pounce, and we managed to do it. So, big moment for us to get two on the board. That's what we wanted to do today, and we made it maybe a little bit tougher than it needed to be, but we're wrapped.
Blair, one final thought in the big picture now. You've got a clear break on Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, 5-3. What does that mean to the team?
Yeah, it's what we wanted to do, to try and get a break today. The boat's going really nicely. We feel like we're just, getting into our groove more and more the more races we do. So the boat's going nice. Even though we're on the wrong sail in that race, we're still, managing to go along just fine. So, we'll keep learning. We made, a couple of mistakes still in the pre-start. They weren't as clean as we would have liked. So we need to keep charging on. There's still a couple more to go.
Congratulations. Still a long way to go, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, guys.
Blair Tuke, flight controller for Emirates Team New Zealand, as we go on board Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Jimmy Spittle standing by. Jimmy, it felt like you had that one in the bag. Tough.
Oh, never in the bag, as you saw. Pretty tough conditions. And yeah, we're starting a pretty good race up until then. Unfortunately, we just fell off the foils and really got sort of stuck up at the top mark for some time, just trying to find enough pressure just to get back up on the foils.
So, Jimmy, let's talk about some positives. You won both starts. You know, how do you focus the team? It's going to be really easy for your entire team to be down right now. How do you turn it around? How do you focus on the positives, like the starts, like the ability to get this boat out in front early?
Oh yeah, look, we did some things well. Obviously, you know, there's a few things we've obviously got to go back and tidy up. But look, we know we can win races. The team, you know, we've been in some tough situations before, and the guys will keep their heads up. We'll go back. We'll try and grow stronger, and we'll come out firing tomorrow.
Yeah, Jimmy, it's tough break. Obviously, looking great halfway up that upwind, but you know, as you got close to the top mark, it looked like it was getting lighter. Can you give us a bit of information on what went wrong in that tack? What happened that led you to fall off the foil and lose the lead?
Yeah, pretty much exactly how you said it. You know, as we came up to the top there, it was starting to go lighter and lighter, and yeah, unfortunately, we just couldn't get through the tack. But that's the way it goes. You know, we saw the same thing with those guys at some point, I think on the first run, where they also went into a bit of a light spot. So, look, that's just the way it rolls. We've just got to onwards and upwards and come out swinging tomorrow.
One of the words of Francesco Brediese, just keep fighting, Jimmy. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Well, the start was really done well by Spithill. I thought this was going to actually be a bit of a draw, but they did a really nice job of having a nice angle into the starting line. It was kind of a pin end favored, and you heard Jimmy Spithill right after this start say, "High mode, Boyd." Look at that. He closed the distance between the two boats really quickly and forced Emirates Team New Zealand to roll into attack immediately to what turned out to be the unfavored side of the course. So there's two even boats, but next time the boats came together, there was a little bit of a lead for the Italians, and they stretched it out. I was about to say they sailed one of their very best legs. Another thing that we noticed right off the bat is they had a bigger jib up, and Shirley and Freddie kept saying, "It's getting lighter out here, it's getting lighter out here." We thought that bigger jib was going to work to their advantage, but as it turns out, it didn't. It all went pear-shaped for the Italians at one stage. But here they look great. They stretched it out again on this run. This is a weird run where Nathan picked up. It looked like they had problems with their jib.
Jib's open.
And as soon as the closing happened between Emirates Team New Zealand, you see them jibe, and there's almost no pressure in their sails. There's got to be bad air from the two boats. They're jibing through their own breeze. They're jibing through the other boat's breeze. They fall off their foils. Honestly, we think it's game over. The Italians just sail away, Nathan, and yep, goodbye, see ya. But it was not to be.
Exactly, it was this tack here, so the whitewash that comes off the back of the foil, then the hull touches down. Up until that moment, everyone in the world was thinking these guys are going to go on and win it. It just went from bad to worse. They fall off the foil, and then they're trying to get up. They're trying to use the width of the course. They go out of bounds, they get penalties. Meanwhile, Emirates Team New Zealand, they come sliding through at the top mark, slick sailing, foiling nicely, and they win. They win the race. They turn what was probably going to be a 1-all day into a 2-0 day, and man, momentum has shifted.
Give your boat a little pat. Well done. Cheeky grin.
Confirmation then of what the scorecard looks like in this match in the race for the 36th America's Cup. One team has won 2 races for the first time on one day. That is Emirates Team New Zealand. They lead 5-3. What a day it has been. There will be plenty of celebrations in and around New Zealand. The Viaduct Harbour will be pumping like it has never before on a Monday evening as the spectator fleet heads home. As we take a look at the numbers. Wow, what a crazy day.
Yeah, the numbers, in a way, are irrelevant in this race. The distance sailed is nearly identical. It doesn't matter. The speeds don't matter. It's you're on your foil or not on your foil. That's really it. It was incredible how I've never seen a race like this before.
Let's go to the worm, because what you'll see, and Nathan loves doing the worm, about when both teams fall off the foils.
Well,
Nathan.
this one's really easy. Look at that. Look at that.
Nathan, you can have this
one boat did under 15 knots for a long time, not foiling the other boat. Their Prada were going just fine on this leg. First downwind. That was when Emirates Team fell off. Then we get to the top mark. They fall off the foil, and this is the part where the race changed. Emirates Team New Zealand sat on the foil for the rest of the race. Prada took them a very long time to get up and going there.
All right, well, let's take you to the obvious moments of the day, and that will be coming off your foils, particularly the first one, where Emirates Team New Zealand, it looked like they were ready to mow them down.
Yeah, gut choice right here. They decide, instead of getting hooked to the left side of the Italians right there, let's jibe away. We think we're going quick. We think we're going well. They sailed through some bad wind. Look, the sails just never get any pressure in them coming out of it. They got too small a jib. Probably their room for error is slightly less. And sure enough, they are down, and they're down for a while. And frankly, I think the whole world thinks this race is over, except for maybe Freddie Carr and Shirley Robertson, who are out there saying, guys, it is patchy out here. It is light. It's hard. Let's see what happens. Well, sure enough, it took a long time for these guys to get the boat out of the water. They almost did right here, but once it seems like, Nathan, all of a sudden that boundary comes up and you got to jibe again and it's all over. It's just no wind in those sails, none. They actually keep both foils in a long time to try to stay as stable as they can, but that thing is glued to the water at this stage, and they know they're in trouble.
It wasn't the only yacht beaching itself, because then, Nathan, came Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, when they were leading.
And it's this critical tack here. Keeping the boat on the foils is critical. And you see the little bit of white water coming off the back of the foil. It loses its lift briefly, and then they lift that windward board maybe a click too early, and they can't hop it up in the air right now. The hull touches the water, and it sucks. It just feels like you can't get it out anymore. Anyone who's sailed foiling boats knows what it's like. When you're on the foil, you've got the apparent wind. The boat's going fast. Life is great. It's right here when they lift that foil and you see the hull touch down. It's softer, there's less wind up the top there, and to try and build there and get it going, you've got all this drag of the water touching the hull. Very hard to break that drag and get it going, and well, that was the beginning of the end for these guys. They had a huge lead, but they could never get it up and going for almost 10 minutes. They stayed stuck to the water.
It's going soft again.
Luna Rossa just continued to get penalties going back and forth and back and forth. Frankly, they don't care where the boundary is at this stage. They're not allowed to ignore it, and that's why they actually got a couple penalties given to them at one stage, because they were clearly ignoring it just to trying to get up on the foils. All you're trying to do, you'll go take your penalty. I don't care about my penalty at this stage. If I can use a little more extra distance in order to pop it, I will do that. In fact, on the other side of the race course, I think they did just that.
Makes a beautiful sight, doesn't it? These boats, I gotta say, watching these boats being towed in is just as much fun as watching them racing it. Let's go to Chase Boat 1, Shirley Robinson. Well, crazy old day, but finally one team wins 2 in a row and takes a clear lead, Shirley. What are your thoughts on race day 5?
Wow, what a day. And as you say, 2 races on the bounce. That is massive. I mean, the defender leads now 5-3. And tomorrow, with a building confidence in their pace and also a bit of momentum, they could close it out. I mean, tonight in the Luna Rossa shed is absolutely critical. It's going to be massive.
Let's go up high with Freddie Carr and Heli 1. Well, you called a lot of what happened today, Freddie.
Yeah, maybe I should be a tactician, not a grinder.
I was just about to say the same thing, Freddie. I was just...
But all joking aside, I was privileged to sail with Luna Rossa in the 34th America's Cup. And there's one thing that drives that team, and that is passion, man. And I know that debrief tonight is going to be full of passion. They will feel robbed from that race, and they're going to use that energy. They're going to use that anger. And man, tomorrow is a huge day, but the passion in that Italian camp tonight is going to be firing the boys up, ready for a massive day tomorrow.
As Freddie knows, all grinders are actually tacticians.
Yeah, but I want to ask one question here. Emotion versus reality. Emotion versus reality.
I'd be walking in, Nathan, and saying we won both starts. We were ahead halfway through both races for the most part. Guys, we can still do this.
Totally, you know, if we go back to what's been winning races up until today, it is about those starts, and Jimmy Spittle executed 2 from 2. In the first race, maybe they could have done that bottom mark a little bit better and tacked, or maybe split the course and stayed in phase somehow a little bit better, but that wasn't to be. And in that last race, one bad tack and they lost it. They could have actually won both races today very easily.
There will be a sense of relief on board Emirates Team New Zealand, and the professional that he is, Jimmy Spittle, Francesco Bruni, will go back into the shed tonight and say, okay, let's go again. They have not shied away from the fight, Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, and tomorrow is another day. As we see Emirates Team New Zealand head home, on board there will be Kiwi sporting legend Joe Sullivan, or at least on shore. He's got the heart, the spirit and the muscle to help power Emirates Team New Zealand to victory. Sullivan won gold in the double sculls at the 2012 London Olympics. Then he retired to pursue a career as a firefighter. But the lure of the America's Cup was too great to resist.
For me, I've always looked for the challenges in life. I've always told myself I'd never be able to sit behind a desk. It's always been finding that thing in life that I want to push and drive for. I come from the background of rowing. I started when I was about 13. From high school, I got told by the head boy that that's what I was going to do, so didn't really argue with him, got into there, and from there kind of carried on towards the Olympics. My Olympic race in the double didn't really start off as planned. By the first 500 metres we were last. We kind of just had to hold together and trust each other. From the 1500 to the finish line, we just gave it absolutely everything we had. Kind of blocked out anyone that was around us and just tried to do our best 500 ever and finished the race. Thought we got third, and lo and behold, we'd actually won Olympic gold, so yeah, it was pretty sweet for us. I definitely learned a lot about myself from that race. You can always push yourself harder than you think you can, and you will survive. I've always been told you pass out before you die, so kind of stuck with that mantra. It's one of those things, you can't do it every single time, but when the going gets tough and you really need to put that effort in, you're capable of doing it. The role I'm in now, grinding, is way more focused on the upper body. I have been finding it a lot more difficult, but definitely growing and getting stronger as well.
And that lead gets further for Emirates Team New Zealand.
When we're grinding during a race, it's one of those things, you know it's never ending. The more power we can supply to Pete, the more he's able to use. So knowing that we have to push ourselves 100% at all time to give him everything we have, it's a dark space you have to get into during the racing. But for us, to give our all is the utmost thing we can do. I think it's every Kiwi's dream to win an Olympic gold, and then it's every Kiwi's dream is also to win the America's Cup. So for me, I've ticked off some massive things, and I feel very honoured to have that opportunity to be able to do that. So to now have that cup in New Zealand and be on the defending side of it, to represent New Zealand in our home country, in Auckland, in front of our peers and our countrymen, there's nothing better than that. And it also gives you that extra drive to be able to push yourself to race harder, to fight for it and to retain it.
the spectator fleet heads in towards their bases in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, after day 5 racing of the 36th America's Cup. We have seen one team for the first time in this match win 2 in a row, and that is the defender right there, Emirates Team New Zealand, a 58-second win and a 3-minute and 55-second win. But most importantly, they take a 5-3 lead in this Cup match. As we keep saying, in this best of 13 series, first to 7 holds the Cup high. As we have described, the AC-75 is a new breed of Cup boats powered by a new breed of sailor. Of the 11 sailors on board, 8 are tasked with grinding. They're the engine room and they generate hydraulic power needed to make these boats fly. So what does it take to become a grinder? Well, you need strength, power, speed, and an ability to cope with a world of pain.
Joe's up. Welcome to Joe's favourite spot, the Hurt Locker.
The Hurt Lockers come out about this idea that it's this getting in the zone, is that you kind of find your place where you just focus on the exact intensity of what you're doing at the time, and usually that intensity is quite hard and it feels quite painful.
Each of these guys have a different strategy with how they deal with that pain. Some of the guys really show it on their face and in their body language. Other guys just almost go more internal.
A normal time on the grinder that people would think would be relatively long would be 30 minutes. Some of our longer endurance grinds on the machine can be up to 2 hours in duration, which for most people seems absolutely crazy.
It's a pretty dark place that these guys need to get into. It's a pretty painful country that they need to learn to live in.
If we do sessions that's very short, very high intensity, 30 seconds, 1 minute maximal sprints, then we sometimes have to get the bucket ready for those sessions.
It's pretty intense in this room. The amount of sweat and vomit is pretty impressive. So, I mean, this is one place that you want to come to, but also, you know, towards they don't always want to go to.
You had a young athlete who was a physiological specimen. Put them through some of the sessions that these guys have gone through. You'd probably find that they could tolerate a few sessions, but then they'd be cooked mentally and also emotionally. Just 1 minute at a time, fellas. I've worked across different sports, from Olympic weightlifting to rugby to track and field, and the power outputs that some of the rugby boys were pumping out through their legs, you know, these guys can do through their upper body, which is just mind-blowing. As a kid, I remember watching all the America's Cup campaigns as far back as I can remember, so I mean, it's a massive honour for me to be even part of this campaign. I'm definitely throwing everything I can into making sure that these guys are top dogs when it comes time to the race start.
That's what I want. I want our team to stick it in the face of everyone else's team, so to speak, yeah.
There's Bean Rock. It's an iconic part of this Waitemata harbour, and it really does look beautiful. The sun, it's really quite romantic, lads.
I really think that this is going to be a mental game here, Nathan. They're human. Let's let the Italians let them sulk on the way in. By the time you get to the dock, you got to be ready to turn things around.
You think they're sulking?
There's no question. You're ripping mad right now. There is no other way of looking at it. They're putting on a brave face, but there are some really angry people on that boat right now, and by the time they get to the dock, they got to turn around and figure out a way to get prepared for tomorrow.
Yeah, today was definitely a missed opportunity for them, especially that second race. You know, to be leading both races convincingly and then have it slip away. There's some soul searching going on tonight, and they're going to have, Francesco Bruni's going to have some motivation tomorrow.
You know who's getting called from tonight? It's not the call you really want to take after losing 2 races.
Oh,
Mr. Pirelli.
No, let's hope. Let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope he's as composed as these guys are.
But behind every great film, television show and sporting event is a brilliant soundtrack. They creep into the subconscious, create tension, gravitas, and set the scene for a memorable, sometimes historical day of action. So how do they do it? Ali Lieberman was given the task of composing a music score that captured the essence of sailing, the America's Cup and New Zealand.
No matter what I'm gonna do, if any job that I do that will ask to have any New Zealand flavor in it, I just need to look around and it's pouring on me instantly. The first thing that came to mind is how do I use the actual sound of the boat itself? I used all the other sounds as a transition tools. Trying to find, you know, weird elements that's futuristic, I would say. And then for me, you know, you're bringing the actual Kiwi flavor. For me, as somebody that comes outside of New Zealand, is one of the most enchanting and beautiful and important part of New Zealand. So you get a tiny bit of conch to see what happened? Have a breath. Sounds amazing. You know, people all around the world know what a haka feels like. It's a very distinctive part of our identity. It's multi-layered, and one of the layers that's sort of dominant is all the horns and the brass, and that represents the chase. Means game on. I want the audience to feel like they're right in it and right in the drama of what is it to fly above the water at 50 knots. Having this extreme decision making with crazy consequences. It's crazy how this is working. I wanted to make no mistakes that this race is happening here, we're hosting it, and good luck. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Of course, thank you so much. I really hope you're going to like the final result.
Emirates Team New Zealand coming to home base. Look at the crowds lining around their base, waiting to welcome them home. They have a 5-3 lead in this America's Cup match in 2021. Confirmation of where we sit in this America's Cup on the Hauraki Gulf. Emirates Team New Zealand, the defender 5, Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli 3, but it could have been so different. Tomorrow we are back at it. Is tomorrow a defining day? Can Emirates Team New Zealand do the double again, or will Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli respond to an enormous challenge? This is how it shakes down on race day 6. Emirates Team New Zealand with port entry in race 9. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli port entry in race 10. Nathan Outridge, Kenny Reid, time to wrap up a day that has probably been one of the craziest ones you guys have seen in a long time. Nathan, to go to you first. This team here, Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. It is a gut punch, that one.
It's a missed opportunity day. They won both starts, they were leading both races and couldn't convert. And that's going to hurt. That debrief is they're going to have to be honest and tough with themselves, and they will be, and they've got a good coaching staff behind them. They've got to reset and get ready for tomorrow. I think one of the biggest interesting points of this match is the weather is going to be different tomorrow, Kenny.
Yeah, there's positives and negatives, believe it or not, for both teams. So you got to think every person on both squads, they have their quiet moments. They have their moments to themselves. They're all going to be thinking about what they did well and what they didn't do well. There's plenty of ups and downs for both teams today. This could have been a disaster day for the Kiwis and couldn't have flip-flopped into a more positive day for them. That's sport, man. Wow, unbelievable.
What have we seen today? We've seen the roller coaster of emotions of two teams. And it has produced a wild day on the waters of the Waitemata Harbour. What we do know is that boat there and its team, Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, have somewhat of a mountain to climb to stay in the match. But I repeat what Francesco Bruni continues to say, we will keep fighting hard. We still have a shot at winning this regatta. It's all on tomorrow, races 9 and 10. Emirates Team New Zealand lead 5-3. We'll see you at 4 o'clock local.
Today's America's Cup Racing is brought to you by Yanmar.